Tomatoes, tomatoes.
Or is it a situation where that's how you're supposed to say it in England, Zeb?
Well, we do. I said June 14.
And the international
But that was,
date format.
but that was for dramatic effect. I wasn't talking about coming out to the America on 14th of June.
Listen, Paul, we have Americanized Zeb. He's pretty much full-blown American at this point. So,
tickety-boo.
No way. I'm going to convert you into Brits.
Oh, boy. We don't need another Civil War again.
We're going to have 4 days of practicing English so that the Biddle 150, or whatever the number will be at that time.
Practicing English.
Right.
That's what you should submit a talk, Zeb, and the whole talk is proper English. And then just go.
Yeah, and we'll have none of this router rubbish. It's a router. Yeah. And you go.
There he is.
We have levels.
The man, the legend.
Oh.
The corset wearer.
The Pink Panther.
He left at that, didn't he?
Oh, no, he's back again. That decidedly looks like the kit he wears when he's on these sports shows.
We can't hear you. I think you're talking, Noah. We heard like a little bit and then you went out. No, can't hear you.
Someone's messed with his red bit of kit again. No, still can't hear you.
Dang, Simon, man. It's Simon doing it again. We still can't hear you. There's no audio. No audio.
No audio, so we're not messing with you.
Well, that would be funny.
But
he's already had a bad enough day trying to get into this, so we won't mess with him too bad.
If it's any help, we heard the original two gurs.
Yeah, when you first got on, we heard you.
We can do this for a second.
There you go.
Well,
now we can hear that. Yeah.
Right, but that's the wrong mic. That's this mic.
Yeah. That's the cap. That's the word. Yeah. Okay.
That's okay. At least we can talk while I figure this out.
So you're having a morning.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Your dedication to Destination Linux by sitting on a chair outside of a closed platform.
Dude, you don't. Yeah, well,
that's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah.
You get mad points for that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Let's see here.
Just be grateful that doesn't say WC above your head.
The water closet. I'm learning all of your Zedisms, Zeb.
I didn't get that until you said it, Noah. You did better than me.
What, WC? No, that's a lavatory.
Oh, I think I found it now. Where the?
Would you guys like me to serenade you while we wait?
No, you're okay. Sorry, did I say that out loud? It was a bit too quick.
I'm going to try something. It might be a bad idea. Can you hear me? Or did that do anything bad?
Now we can hear you now.
Bad? No.
No, we can't hear you.
Cannot hear you still. Cannot hear you.
That's fine.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Yeah. Back to that one. So I got to figure out, how do I mount this input to the USB interface? Suppose I could be dirty. Oh, here we go. Digital. That's probably it. Digital output.
Yeah.
Here we go. Hold on a second. That's digital output settings. I'm gonna try something else. It could be bad.
Is it a USB mic?
Did that break anything?
No.
Did that break anything?
Nope.
No, it's still echoey.
Okay, so now let's try this. Now let's see if I go to.
No, now you're gone.
You try plugging it in.
Is that the problem? Is Michael here?
Yeah, somewhere. But
allegedly.
What are you talking about?
He's looking for his receipt or something.
How dare you? I threw away that receipt a long time ago.
Yeah, sure you did.
Actually, no, it's in our shoebox.
I know, because you wouldn't waste paper.
I'm so not in the mood.
No, I just keep track of stuff, bro. I'm an adult.
You know what?
Sometimes.
I better make sure it's not a Zoom thing.
I was going to say, shut Zoom down and open it up again, or
Yeah, if I record, let's see. All right, at least now I can test and see what's coming in. So inputs. Let's go back to the matrix. I want input 1 to be
Or not to be.
not encoder 2.
One of the best Star Trek movies, man.
What?
That quote's in one of the best Star Trek movies, Undiscovered Country.
Not
I'm pretty sure that's
be.
not where it comes from.
No, it's Shakespearean, but that's what I'm saying is like that reminded me of that Star Trek movie more so than the stupid Shakespeare play that's boring.
That's fair. It is boring. You're right. Oh, I gotta fix the Zoom again.
Shakespeare stupid.
Yes, and boring.
It's because
Seriously?
It's because it's British.
Exactly. Who understands all those stupid words they use? Thou shalt not art go there. Like,
Forsooth, thou shalt learn the hard way.
vengeance is a dish best served cold.
I don't understand.
Actually, Sam, you know, the interesting thing is a lot of words that we use now were created by Shakespeare.
I'm Googling it.
Shakespeare? It's really good. You'll like it, Noah. He's like, not right now, man.
No, it's all right.
Noah's like me. I get frustrated when I have technical problems.
I
because
don't
shouldn't
get
have
frustrated with technical problems. What I get frustrated with is scheduling problems and,
Doors not being open.
well, that was I was being polite because there's, but so scheduling problems and the other thing that is frustrating to me is when technology that works every other time, then all of a sudden it stops working, and of course when I'm on time crunch, then I get a little upset.
Hey, Zeb, by the way, do you have a YubiKey? And Michael, do you have a YubiKey? Because that could be our screenshot this week.
I do not.
Since Noah had YubiKey on, do you have anything like a YubiKey?
I have a USB drive that I could pretend is a YubiKey.
Okay, we'll do that. Because I know Noah has his YubiKey on him.
Well, yeah, at all times.
This
It's attached to him.
is going to be embarrassing, but I actually don't have my computer bag with me.
What?
Because I can't.
You got to keep it on a necklace, man. That's what I do.
That's what he typically does. Nice, Greg.
No, I'm not the only one waiting to get in, so that's good. Really feel like
See, Greg has one. Can you send that over the screen to Michael?
That'd be nice.
Fax it to him.
I always assumed Noah had one like embedded in his skin.
I have one embedded in my computer usually, but oh my gosh! And now
You should print one out, Michael. Just print a paper one.
Just a piece of paper one.
That would be so funny.
If I had time,
Or draw one, a poorly drawn one. A YubiKey.
I don't draw poorly. I don't understand that.
they got the door open. Hold on.
Yeah, I put mine back on my ring, but I can't get
Right,
it
let me
close
go
enough to the.
Something.
Oh man, it's not focusing. What's going on?
You cover your face, it focuses. Like this. So like you put it in front of your hand like that. Yeah, it'll focus. If you just get closer, it'll focus.
Yeah, no, they won't focus like that because it's behind my hand. Yeah,
Right.
I can't say.
But it works. That's how it autofocus is. Like it's the YouTube trick is just to hold your hand above it and it just
And then
covers.
just focus that way. Yeah,
Yeah. If you cover,
majority of what's there. Yeah.
yeah. Although it's probably not the best thing to cover your face inside of this because that's not as much important. YubiKey is not that important. Hey, did you get in? Nice. Progress.
They're gonna put this back on where it was.
Where did that case go with that had the from JB1, the big trunk?
All right. Can you tell I'm sunburned?
Looks like you've been in the sun,
It's gonna be in his Jeep.
and so we can naturally assume you were sunburned
Wow.
because you went outside.
Wow.
You know.
I think.
You're right,
Oh, that's
but
right.
wow.
Pretty much every time something goes missing or is needed, it's usually with him.
Well,
And
there wasn't any room to keep
This
him.
camera looks okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't suppose you have an extra audio interface.
Look,
I could
tickety
borrow,
boo.
at least for
Tickety
Good.
boo.
45 minutes. USB interface.
I'm so glad it worked out then.
Some way to get audio in and out of my laptop for about 45 minutes.
These are good notes, by the way, Ryan.
Somebody had a funny joke.
I was giving you a compliment. I'm not going to beat myself.
Look at
I'm
that.
kidding.
Real 4K.
Nice.
Dang.
I know you said it wasn't good when you tried it, but so many YouTube reviews said that there were major problems when it first came out. And knowing you bought it like 2 days before it was
I did.
released.
Yeah.
And they had lots of firmware problems that they've now updated, and it works.
That's like $199 camera, right?
158 squid, I think. So yeah, 150 quid. So the question is it
He's embraced it.
worth £100 more than the C920?
No.
Honest answer, no. But to be able to do 60 frames a second at 1080p
That's pretty
That's-
cool.
does make it.
Well,
better.
922X does that as well. No, you said 1080, so you're right. It only does 720.
It only does 720 at 60, yeah.
Yeah, but I do. If I care about 60 frames, I'm only going to do it in gaming, and then I'm going to have myself in a small box, so 720 is fine.
Yeah.
Although,
No, but I'm glad you got it because I was funny enough, Zeb. I picked one up at Best Buy the other day. Didn't buy it, but I picked it up and I was looking at it like this box looks different. Everything looks different than when I bought it back in the day. And I was surprised to see it back because for a while they had pulled it off the product shelves because it's so many returns.
Yeah, because they had so many problems with it.
Yeah.
But one of the big things is you must use USB 3 as a minimum. Otherwise, you don't get 4K. And you only get 4K on Windows as well. You can't get it in Linux.
Have you
Usual-
tried moving it to 4K through GovC View?
Through
60 frame per second, the GovC View tool, because it should allow you to.
that's what I use
Yeah,
to reset my camera every time.
Yeah, go to GovC View. It's
yeah.
and then if you go in there and set it to 4K 60 frames per second there, it will be also in your other programs.
Yeah, it's not obviously not picking it up at the moment because I've got.
Okay, you got to change the format to
No,
Y.
but you've got Zoom on and it doesn't allow you to.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when you do that, if you don't see the option, change the format to the YU7.
Y,
Just one of
YU, YV,
yeah, there you go.
or YUMV, depending on your camera. But you don't have to close Zoom. You can just stop your video and then edit stuff and then come back.
Ah, right. Okay.
Because that's how I fix my Zoom. And really, what you do is once you change it and get exactly what you want, save that profile.
Yep.
Because sometimes it does not save it on your camera. You have to reload that profile every time. Like when I reboot, I have to reload it every time.
Well, now GUV. There must be a. Oh. Why does I've got these three screens. So why does it put the box that's popped up like 45 foot on the left? GUVC error, invalid pixel format, close. Right. Invalid resolution index, close.
It's not able to grab the camera from Zoom.
Yeah, so now I've turned it off. Let's see if it can. Let's go back in. And boom, there we are. So video controls. Yes, it's only on.
See, this is what patrons miss. All of this important technical support information.
So 60 frames a second
It's
on
very useful.
Exactly.
4096. Wow, that's big. Oh God, you can see all my spots. No, don't like that.
We can't hear you, Greg, if you are talking. I just saw you send me a message asking if you're muted.
So let's mirror that. So I think that's now on. Wow, yeah. See, what did you say to change it to? YY?
YUYV.
YU. Oh, I've got YU, YU, or YV, YV.
Either
It
one of
doesn't
those should be
really-
fine.
Ah, there's one at the.
Oh,
Yeah, let's go that one
Switch
there.
between them and see which one gives you the 1080-60. That's what you need to do.
Right. Because they'll both give you better versions than like the MPEG 1 or MPEG 2, whatever it has. Because by default, mine was MPEG 1, I think.
That's because you're on such an old kernel.
Yeah, it's
How
strange.
dare you?
None
I have
of
an
them-
1810 system, sir. It's kind of old,
Ooh.
though. It's kind of still kind of old.
You see, it's really strange because the only one that gives me 60 frames per second is MJPG. The other two won't give me 60 frames a second.
That's
Will it
weird.
give you 60 at 4K?
Say again.
It gives you 60 at 4K.
No. It only gives me 30 at 4K, which is what it's supposed to do.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah.
I-
So now I
That's
go
right. So
settings.
1920 by 1080, it's showing you 60 frames.
Yeah.
Okay.
So settings, save. That'll do. Just chuck it in there for now, and then quit. Not that it'll make.
There could be a problem though, Michael, if he runs at 60 FPS and everybody else does it with audio sync.
Yeah. I don't want it 60 frames like on here. It's work.
But we could test it now. But
Yeah, we can test it if you want. I don't care. But it's not.
Well, it's on 60 frames a second now. I don't know if it's made the slightest bit of difference.
It's going to be
Actually,
recorded at
way
30
clearer
frames.
to me.
So it doesn't
Whatever you
really
think
matter.
is actually clear.
So do you want me for this stream? Do you want me to put it back to 30 frames a second?
I don't think it really matters. I think it'd be fine if it's at 60 and we just display it at 30. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it'll just lose some frames, but I don't think it's gonna lose a lot because there's not a ton of motion. So unless you do this a lot.
Darn it.
then
No,
it's fine.
that's
We'll
I'm fairly staid and quiet and
Yeah,
just.
I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. So we're gonna do it like so everybody's gonna be at 30 frames when I record it, but so I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
You'll see.
You'll all see.
Let me stop that.
I usually don't have anything that big that I did this week or whatever. This week I have a lot.
Speaking of which, did we add in the Noah tell us about thing?
Nope.
Right where was Noah thing?
Why you gotta add the mutant thing, man?
Who?
Ryan.
So I told you I had edited the document
But what's the mutant part for?
because the Avengers are mutants.
Not in the ones in the movies. There's no mutants in the movies.
So you're telling me.
There's not a single mutant in the movies.
So who's the main star? Name
Iron Man.
The four. Iron Man. So
He's a regular dude in a suit.
with a flaming grey atomic thing in his chest.
Not a mutant. That's mutants is you get something because you're born with it. He had a bomb attached, like exploded
All right,
near
so
him.
who's the other guy in the film then?
Thor.
Who's the other person? Thor.
He's a god.
Yo, what's up?
So that's
Is
hardly.
that Eric, the IT guy?
He's not human at all. Yeah, it's Eric Eichmeyer.
Okay.
The third
You got the
character?
Eric part right though. Third character Hulk. He had gamma radiation exposure.
Yeah, so he's a mutant.
No, he's not. A mutant is
And
you're
the
born
fourth
with
one?
it. A mutant is there's an X gene in your body. You're born with it.
Do you hear me? Wait, that again.
Now we
Literally
can
none
hear
of them are mutants.
So who's the
Good.
fourth character?
Doctor Strange. He was embraced with magic. Let's see, Captain
No,
America.
we can't hear you, Noah.
He had injections that gives him super strength. Let's see, Hawkeye is just really good at shooting. He doesn't have anything extra. Vision is a robot. Ant-Man has technology. Black Panther has technology based on vibranium. I can make it easy and tell you why that there's no mutants in the Avengers, in the movies anyway. I can make it really easy.
Go on,
They
then.
don't own the license for the mutants movies yet.
Yeah.
Fox owns those, so they're not allowed to use them. They would have otherwise. That's why they started with Iron Man, because all their good characters they didn't have options for. They didn't have the legal right to use them in movies. Although Disney bought Fox now.
Scarlet Witch was a X-Men at some point, so they have had crossovers.
You are correct. However, in the movies, they changed it. They changed the origin of both Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch into being Inhumans, not X-Men, not mutants. Although in the comics,
I tried, Zeb.
you are
Can't argue with Michael.
You are right technically, because in the comics, they are actually the son and daughter of Magneto.
Nice. Now, guys, we need to start at 11, okay?
I'm ready to go whenever Noah gets stuff. Oh, I see what you're saying, because it's not that. Wait, is it?
It's giving Noah a hard time.
Oh, I see. I still have.
And only because he can't talk back at you because you
Exactly.
can't put his mic
Well, I
working.
made his crap list this week already, so he wouldn't even talk to me in the show.
Did you message him sometime, like right before the thing?
No, what I did is I made fun of him for something. What was it in chat? And he said, "You're on my SL list, buddy."
What did you respond? That's redundant, sir.
Like I didn't know that already. If you're gonna be friends with me, you will be offended by things I say at least 6 times a year.
I've never been offended once.
Well, that's not nice because then I can't be friends with you because you've never offended me once.
Well, darn it. Well, you're unoffendable, Zeb. I've learned.
You've got to try harder.
That's one of the things I love about you. You can't be offended.
Like, even when we make fun of your heritage, you're like, yeah, that's a weird one.
Although I think one time I did push Zeb's buttons. Like we were going on this banter in chat. Tell me if I'm right, Zeb. We were going on this banter in the chat, and it was just a silly banter, but it was like Navy SEALs are better than the Redcoats type banter. And
Then the red.
do you remember
coats.
this? This is years ago. Like this is back when it was just me, you, and Rocco. And we were on this banter wave. And then at some point you said, okay, and we were just joking back and forth. At one point you're like, okay, can we just agree that, you know, both military forces are fantastic and help protect our countries? And I was like, oh, I think I got to Zeb. I think I finally got to Zeb.
I think I vaguely remember it, but I think you may have brought the SAS into it, and that was
That's
just
what it
like-
was, the SAS. Yeah.
And it's like fail because they'll kick your backside not 365 days of the year. Seal or no seal. Bye.
Oh, come on. Your little red coat. Oh.
Your little red coat.
Okay, we
I
can hear
think that's
something
the
now.
one time I pushed your button.
We hear it sounds like a laptop mic though, not his actual mic.
Yeah, because there's music in the background. Now I know what Tyler was on about when he got some and he said, "Oh my God, does somebody not know what headphones are for?"
Somebody's practicing their guitar.
I hope Self is not that loud.
Nobody plays a guitar in the middle of Self, I tell you that. Not that I've heard yet. It is a new year.
Although, according to Bo, you might have the sound of gunfire in the background.
Yeah, there is
Guns for geeks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he's going to get me firing an actual 45. That could be fun.
You know how we always gave Rocco a bunch of crap about dusting and stuff? My girlfriend came in to my office and said, I know I'm bad at dusting, but wow.
Oh, I think I got your beat on there. The dusters doesn't go anywhere near this place. Possibility of creating static electricity is just
There you go. Yeah, you don't want to ruin your stuff.
Yeah, I have dust on my bookcases at the very
So
top.
why did you go to Denver this week? Or are you going to talk about it in the episode?
I'm gonna talk about it in the episode, but I
Okay.
can go ahead and tell you quickly. It's just my brother wanted to do it because it was a family get the thing. Me and my brother and my cousins. Technically not my cousins, but you know.
Oh, I finally found what I got that triggered Noah. He was talking about what time we're doing the show, and Michael said 8 a.m. And he said, I'm good with that as long as I can get up or something. And I said, get an iPhone, set alarm equals profit.
That's the
That's
one.
when he said, you're dead to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That does sound like Noah.
No, he said, I will end you. That was
Yeah,
his
I will end you.
Now, he obviously can't hear us now because he's not smiling or grinning or...
I think
Yeah,
he just
he's-
muted us so he doesn't so he can focus.
He's deep into thought, figuring out which direction the USB plugs into.
He's just trying to get Noah to say
Just
to
flipping
respond.
it up, flipping it down. It's just not going in the slot.
He probably has USB-C everything, so we don't have to worry about it.
No, not got you yet.
Brian, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
We can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you, Greg.
Oh, wait, was that working?
It does sound like you're far away, though. It doesn't sound like the volume's really low or something.
What kind of
Just in
beard
case
oil do you
Noah
have?
is having problems, USB. Yep.
Thank you, Zeb, for the tutorial. See, if you guys weren't a patron, you'd never know how to plug in a USB device. See? That's what you get as being a patron.
That is the bonus.
Perks like that. You can't buy that type of tutorial.
Yeah, you can't because it's usually free online.
No one would have the audacity to charge for that.
Is that better, Ryan?
Yeah.
It'd be
It's
like one of
better.
those old cowboy snake oil doctors standing up there with his pure all $1.
Well, now I know my YouTube video for the week I'm going to do.
How to plug in
a USB. I wonder how many views I'll get on that. It'll probably be my most popular video ever.
and how many trolls are going to come down and
What I'm going to do is get every USB device I have, and it's just going to be a 15-minute video of me plugging
plugging
in.
them in and putting them out.
You should make a series called how to basic tech, and then you
that'd
just
be so
do
funny.
the most common stuff like you plug in USB or
Pushing the power button. on
pushing
your
the power button, yeah, or opening the lid of a laptop.
Oh boy.
But you need
Ryan,
to
did you
do
get
it.
a chance to do any of that stuff with the IDE stuff, or did you not get on?
I haven't had a chance yet to play with that. No.
Okay.
But you want to do it in the same way that you did your Radeon 7 video, all tongue in cheek and like
Oh, yeah,
as
yeah.
if you are Professor Das Geek giving the information.
Like,
and,
make it real serious.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If you don't-
Oh, and the best part, next one, you get one of these that has like the little like these USB things that have things like, and this is how you open it.
But then just show it from different camera angles.
Yeah, and have different
slow
models,
motion.
have different models and stuff that do it. It's like,
and then
and if
then
you want to do it, to be a pro, double.
or
If you want to get the girls.
next week we will do the advanced session where we have USB A or USB C in the same.
Hey.
Yes.
That's the
for-
fancy one for sure.
That will be once you've become an expert. I'll do a whole thing of once you're an expert and you've spent
Yeah.
a couple years plugging in USBs.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it too quickly.
This is like the arch of USB. guys.
We'll get to this on video 10.
Video 10.
Uh,
I'm gonna be rich. You all
You
laugh
just-
now.
You've just got to do this. I want to see the trolling that goes on.
Like it's got to be better than EB's video
Which
on why Linux sucks.
He made that?
Oh, he does loads of them.
Why?
You didn't see that, Michael? I sent it to you.
I know, but I saw the title and I didn't watch it because
You should have watched it. It was fascinating because I honestly think, Zeb, that originally was not a joke. Although he's saying it's a joke now.
If there's no,
No.
tongue in cheek in the video itself, it's not a joke.
It wasn't a joke. He had really had enough of Linux for whatever. He goes through it like every other week.
Test.
He'll be back on Windows.
Can hear you.
Test.
Test. No.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
yes, we can hear you.
This mic right here?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hallelujah, praise Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. All right, we're ready.
We also don't have any music in the
That
background.
USB, or what happened? What was the fix?
Well, here's the issue. The issue is anytime you do a fest, right, you get a lot of people that are involved and want to help. And the problem is people start to lose track of who owns what equipment, and then things wander off. And so I got here this morning and realized that the trunk that had all of my equipment was gone because they didn't have room to store it here. And nobody talked to me and said, would it be all right if we took this off site? And so now half the stuff I was planning on using this morning isn't here. And I had to, on the fly, create an audio interface out of something that's not designed to be an audio interface.
Nice.
Well, that is impressive, sir.
Oh,
Yeah, well, we got there and we'll be able to do it.
Call him MacGyver.
So let's get our videos in the right position. So I'm going to go bye.
No, it just leaves his on.
Okay.
Do I need to turn on yet?
No, I need to
do
turn
not-
mine off.
Greg, you got to turn yours off.
Yeah, Greg, you need to turn yours off.
Our show notes linked in the Oh, there it is.
Hey, I pinned him.
you want me to use that? You want me to mic too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
please.
everything
Yeah,
off.
we'll catch
Everything
you
off.
later.
Yep.
And then me. And then Ryan. And then
Wow. Coming at you in HD, baby.
Yeah, HD.
Boom.
Wait a second. It's not good.
Dang, I'll make this video look good.
Fixed. Whatever, doesn't matter. And hide. Wait, I said auto hide. What are you doing? What?
Wow. The whole
I
time.
decided to try to fix my posture because last video I was looking at looked like I was having a stroke in the middle of the video. So
That's
kept
just,
leaning
your
over,
MO.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got
Well,
it.
I've had to lock the chair in the upright position because otherwise I find myself halfway through the shows. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh.
All right.
Someone
Noah
tell
is
Noah
super
jokes
huge.
when he gets back in the zone. Noah.
I'm in the zone, baby.
Oh, okay. All right. Just checking. Because the whole corset thing, can we talk about that now, or is
We
that
can.
okay?
Yeah, we should probably say that for the show.
Could you wear it right now for the show?
I don't have access to it right this moment.
Okay.
I'm
just
in the-
checking.
Second, yeah, I can do that. I'm gonna relocate here a second. I feel like I'm a little bit in the way, so
I was going to say, is this going to happen every 5 minutes? Can we get in the door, mate? Can you just move your
Poor
kit a
Noah.
second?
He's
I will
having a
adapt and overcome. I'm a true professional. 1 second.
It's
Does that say
actually kind
Run
of cool.
DMC in the background? Is that Run DMC?
GCC.
Yeah. I was like, man, that Linux Fest is hip.
All right, there we go.
I actually kind of like it because it's nerdy and good reference.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a way better backdrop too.
Yeah, it is.
It is, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I like the red light district backdrop you had.
That almost looks like a Destination Linux logo back there as well.
We're gonna pretend it is.
Can you go slap one on there?
Absolutely, I can.
Yeah.
I won't. I'm sorry.
Tell them to
imagine?
respect it.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there
We're
any
trying
chance?
Tell them
Okay,
we're trying to do a show here.
Exactly.
this is not important. If the answer is no, feel free. Can you push the camera back a little bit?
Yes. Well, I can tilt the camera up.
That's it, yeah.
That works.
Well, I mean, just kind of like also have like a little bit, like maybe an extra 6 inches of depth.
How's that?
That's better.
Because anymore, and I won't be able to reach the keyboard. I'm
Yeah, that-
short.
That's fine. That'll work. That'll work.
It's got T-Rex arms.
So do you need a C920 that you can then use as a portable?
Well, that is in the trunk. That isn't here. But
Ah,
I have
the
multiple
trunk that
C920s.
someone took.
I have
Yeah,
multiple
right.
C920s. I have multiple C930s.
You look like you're at a press conference because there's another mic pointed right at your face too.
Should I? You think that looks better? Can I have that?
That'll be confusing.
Now you just mic'd up everywhere. I like it. All right,
I'm ready when everybody else
let's
is.
go. Let's get the show
right.
on the road.
Do it. Are you recording?
I am recording.
What
I
about
have-
his audio levels? They seem really low. Can you turn yours up a little bit, Noah?
Yes, I can. Audio levels. Audio levels. Audio
better.
levels. How's that?
Much better.
Is that better?
That's a bit loud now, I thought. Unless it was
A bit
okay. for
too
you,
loud, you're
Michael?
saying?
It's too loud because I also hear like a little bit of an echo behind you.
Okay, hold on. Do. Dialing back. Dialing back. Dialing back. Dialing back. Dialing back. How's that?
Good.
Sounds good.
That sounds much better.
All right, just say something. No, I want to test it on the.
Oh, actually, you know what? I'm getting all upset over nothing. The trunk is sitting right next to me. Thank you, John.
Well, after you
John
moved us there.
John to the rescue.
Nice. Thanks, John.
Hang on, we've got another 40 minutes now while he plugs in the USB.
Yeah, actually, you know what? You're right.
He
You're
doesn't
right.
know how to plug
You're
in.
right. We're ready to
The whole reason why we're here to begin with.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Noah, can you do the tutorial again for him, or Zeb? Can you do the tutorial for Noah real quick?
Can we do it in the show? Because
Yeah.
I have props this time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think he heard us what we were doing, actually. So
Did you hear the USB stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. But I've been there. Anybody that uses USB has been there, right? It goes in one way, goes in wrong. Goes in the other way, goes in wrong. Goes in the third way, right. It seems like 1 and 3 would be equal, but not. Are you recording, Michael?
Yes, I am.
All right.
have you got enough disk space?
I sure do.
Have you got the wiggly lines and they're all equal?
Maybe.
We'll get there eventually. Wrong side.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, Noah, say something.
Welcome to the episode 119 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast of opinions made up of 4 of the greatest minds ever to discuss our passion for Linux. My name is Noah, and joining me are my 3 mutant members of the Linux podcasting Avengers. Michael, how are things going?
That was very well done.
Except the Cavengers part.
That's
we're not
not the
Cavengers,
answer
we're
to
of
Michael,
it.
how are things going?
We weren't ready to start. I was staring at the thing the whole time.
He was just said, "Can you say something?" Yeah.
That worked. Okay, so volume wise, you're slightly lower, but I don't care. It's good enough.
So, now you're recording?
It's recording the whole time. Not the whole time. That's not true. But this is just. I just looked at the waveform. I didn't look
Screenshot
at the-
time. Screenshot.
There you go.
Everyone,
Good call,
YubiKey,
buddy.
YubiKey,
Good call.
We're doing YubiKeys.
I'm doing a USB connector.
I don't exactly. I don't have one of those.
Use a USB.
I'm doing a Type-C connector.
Good.
Sweet.
Nice. All right.
All right, you want me to
Respect
redo
it.
that?
I should have pulled out the selfie stick.
No, you should never pull out a selfie stick.
What are you talking about? It's the best thing ever. Anyway, I am ready whenever you are.
Let's do it.
Welcome to episode 119 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast made up of the opinions of 4 of the greatest minds ever to discuss Linux and the history of people discussing Linux. I am Noah, and with me today are my 3 mutant members of the Linux podcasting Avenger team. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
And, very well. And Zeb, how are things going?
Yeah, I'm doing all good. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. And I can't remember the green girl's name. That's what I was going to insult. Ryan
She-Hulk?
with.
I'm fine with She-Hulk. I mean,
She-Hulk, how's it going?
I'll rock it. I'm doing awesome, man. Doing great.
So, Michael, I'm guessing that things have been busy this week. How was Denver?
It was actually pretty awesome. I got to do some skiing, and I got sunburned while doing skiing. That was great. And I got to check out the System 76 warehouse, and that was pretty cool. So I got a tour there. And also just to kind of like do it, like if you're curious about the sunburn, I have a shirt that people didn't believe me, but it's totally true now. See, it says the sun is trying to kill me. And I have proof
right there. Yeah.
I have proof now.
Ryan, have you been outdoors?
No, that place is scary. Don't go outdoors. Trust me. You get burnt and things.
You
like,
get burnt.
Like Michael was saying.
I did some
there.
skiing and I fell a
Speaking
lot.
of which, do
That
we
was
have some
fun.
pictures of the skiing? Because rumor has it you have a selfie stick, Michael.
I do have a selfie stick, but I'm not good enough to actually.
Can you explain
ski.
why you might have a selfie stick?
I don't understand what you mean.
Because inside he is truly a teenage girl. That's it.
Wait, but who wouldn't have a selfie stick? That's
Do
what
you
I'm
get your
confused.
hair
He not only does
That-
he dye his hair, he dyes his hair and he uses Rebecca Black Linux. That's all you. And he has a selfie stick.
Wait, that's
all
the
you
only
need to know.
that's the only Linux distro a self-respecting person would use.
See
So
what I mean?
I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking
Thing
about.
right there.
But actually, the reason why this is good is because this is an adapter for your phone to attach to a tripod. So you could actually.
dongle. They call that a dongle.
It's not a dongle.
It's a dongle. It's
this
one thing
part,
that connects
you
thing
just-
to another thing. That's a dongle.
It's dangling, so it's a dongle.
This part, ignore this part. Okay, ignore this. I'm talking about just the attachment piece, like that you
So
can.
for those who can't see the visual right now,
It's-
Michael has a selfie stick, but it's not just any selfie stick. Noah can confirm it is the cheapest kind of selfie stick that you would get out of a dollar bin at a dollar
Basically,
store.
if you remember way back in the 80s when teachers used to use like the telescoping antenna pointers that they would use to point, it's like one of those that he kind of hot glued.
But I got it for free, and the reason I got it was
course
this
you
part.
Yeah,
this
well, we
part.
know you didn't pay for it. I mean,
I mean, that's ridiculous.
What are you talking about? But
okay,
anyway,
I
the
looked
whole
it up. Dongle, noun, a small device used by Michael Tennell to connect one thingy to another thingy.
You're
That's
say-
straight from dictionary.com.
you're making fun of how cheap it is. It just kind of broke right here too.
Oh no!
See the little pieces broke off.
I'm going to send you a real selfie stick.
I cannot believe Michael has a selfie stick. But how was System
Alright,
76? Let's get to that.
All right.
That's an important one.
The System 76 was really cool. It was a cool tour. Like I got to check out some stuff. What was really interesting is that I found out some stuff that I didn't know. There's this the Thalio has a lot of detail that they don't really talk about. that if you look at the intake and the outtake fan parts, they have like custom solar systems, and the one on the back of the machine is the position of the solar system when the epochs Unix epochs thing happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's also they had the inside of the case at the bottom. They have the solar system position where the date of the beginning of System 76. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there that they have like a lot of detail. They also have like Morse code on the side of the machine and stuff that
Nice.
they don't really talk about, but it's really cool if they should do like something they should talk about on their website or something because it is pretty cool.
And
they
did you
let
get to
play
see
with
the
lasers?
lasers?
Yeah,
They
the
did let
lasers.
me see the lasers, but
Freaking
not
laser
play with them. Unfortunately,
Oh.
I did ask, but unfortunately, I was not able
Couldn't
to
put it
do
in
that.
your eye just
They-
to see how powerful it is.
So
No,
Zeb-
it's cutting metal. I don't want to put it in my eye.
that's a myth. Zeb, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I've actually had a pretty good week, and through doing nothing special, I've now got Solus back in my distro lineup, and it's working with UEFI. Don't know how, don't know why. It just works. And then the icing on the cake is Antigos Cinnamon is
That's
back,
awesome.
and the mysterious disappearing windows doesn't happen anymore. So I don't know whether that was an NVIDIA fix because we've gone 4.18 or a Cinnamon update. I'm just happy that it's all running and working. So it's good.
I love it. Ryan, what have you been up to?
Well, I'm on AMD, so I don't get that chance of watching things break and then be happy again when they finally get fixed. Because
Well, your life is boring.
Yeah, it's just boring. No, but I've been working on setting up. We were gifted a Lenovo all-in-one PC, and it was
Really?
running Windows 10. And the person gave it to me and said it had a Core i5. It was
yeah.
an older generation, but not terrible. 8 gigabytes of RAM. And they said, look, it's
Sure.
so slow, I can't even use it. You can just have it. And so what do? I wipe
Linux
it,
on it.
put Linux on it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely you
the
do.
thing is screaming. Now, it was slow. It was so slow, you would click the file manager in Windows 10, and you would literally wait for up to 15 seconds before it would load. Now, it is super snappy and fast, and so much so that my kids, of course, when they saw me repairing it, were like, can we have this computer? Because they're on an older laptop. And I was like, sure. It's touchscreen and all of
Did
that.
you really? Did you give it
So
to
yeah, I gave it to them. My kids now have another computer, and it's running Pop OS, and
Dude, that's
very,
awesome.
very impressive.
And was it Intel graphics or?
Yeah, it's just an Intel graphics in there. So again, it works right out of the box, which is beautiful, and it's got the
Excellent.
speakers built in. It's got the nice touch screen too for the kids, which they absolutely love. And of course, I've been playing with my FreeNAS server and learning.
Yes. Oh, how is
so
that? Give me an
much.
update. How is that working?
Dude, it's it's amazing. First of all, they set it up out of the box for me,
Right.
thankfully, so I didn't have to go through the install process. Although I had studied up on it all the way
Oh,
till
yeah,
the box
yeah.
got-
It takes a lot of studying to stick that USB drive in there.
yeah, and I realized it was like it's no difficulty to it at all. But I did study up on that because I was like, if this gets here and I don't know how to even turn it on, but they had done that for me. They had set that portion up, so now it's been a process of just learning the ins and outs of it. Now, Synology NAS, which is what I'm familiar with. Very easy to set up out of the box. Boom, you're done. You want it to do a backup, whatever. The FreeNAS is a little more intricate, right? There's a lot more to set up within it. There's a lot more things to learn. It's also far more powerful at the end.
Right, and flexible.
With it. Yeah.
Are you going to go with ZFS?
I am on ZFS.
That's good.
Is that good? Okay. All right.
No,
good.
that's good. No, that is good. So as tradition, we ask our listeners to guess where Noah is when Noah's not here. So Zeb offered some extra bonus points for the most original answer. Here were your guesses last week. Noah is obviously trying to get the Infinity Gauntlet so that he can snap his fingers and make all of the distros disappear in order to bring peace and balance to FOSS. Everything's gone but CentOS and Ubuntu. Second is, regarding Noah, my theory is he went water skiing, hit an iceberg, and he's pretty cold in North Dakota, don't you know? Here's what's funny about that. We actually got snow this week. It is,
Wow.
watch says still April. Not quite. We're almost into May, and we still have snow. And probably my favorite one, and number 3, one of Michael's clones kidnapped Noah, held him hostage, hoping to replace him on the show. So, Michael, tell us about Linux Fest.
No, you got to do the other one.
Say what?
It was Mike who was going to ask you about how Linux Fest is going. Thus the brackets.
Well, here, I'll fix it for you. I'll fix it for you.
It looks cool.
I got
Hold on.
I got it.
No, here, I'll fix it. Sign in for Eld. Oh man,
That's fine. It's you actually did
I was
edit
gonna
it.
put Michael says. All right, here I'll read the last one. Okay. Well, I guess you could just cut after that.
I can just cut it. It's fine.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought because it was if Michael's clone kidnapped me and held me hostage and replaced me on the show, then we'd be asking you about Linux Fest.
Right.
I see where you were going.
See?
But what you need to do for that section when he reads out number 3 is blank him out and put you in there while he's reading it.
Yes.
I could do that.
Yes.
But have a little video of your mouth
fact,
moving.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it'd even be better if you voiced what do you call it, lip synced what I was saying and put your face over it.
That's an awful lot of work to do before.
I can do it right here. Right here.
Totally worth it.
That would be so cool. And he just put that over the top of Noah as he's saying it. That would be hilarious.
If it works, I don't know if I did it in the right cadence, but we'll try.
That'd be funny.
So Noah, it looks like you have a different background this week. So tell us about Linux Fest Northwest.
It is a bit different background. I am at Linux Fest Northwest, and that's why it's a different background. I see what you did there. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. The thing about Linux Fest is, and especially the fests over the cons, right? You go here not necessarily for the talks, although the talks are stellar. I come here for the community, right? And so I spent all last night hanging out with people, talking about Linux, getting people introduced to Linux, helping people install Linux, and I don't know how this happened exactly, but somehow in the process of serving cake with System 76 for a barbecue that they put on outside of Linux Fest, somehow I wound up in drag. Don't know how that happened, but it happened.
Well, the pictures are all over the internet. In fact,
Yeah.
I think it was up to 6,000 retweets already going through. So, Noah, this may be a way to boost your presence in the Linux community by continuing to wear those type of things.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make sure that every year I put on a pink bikini and
sell Linux
and serve some cake to some Linux folks.
I love it. Good for you, man. Good for you.
So just before you get any ideas, no, it's not happening itself. Okay, boys, it's not happening.
Zeb walks away. I'm going back.
I have the blue bikini for self.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
pink one is Linux Fest Northwest, blue one is self.
yeah. Absolutely. On that note, let's get into some emails here. So we have a new email this week, guys. Thank you very much for adding your comments about accessibility to your news about the new version of MX. I have not heard of MX, and I was listening to the podcast thinking I would have to check it out with all the attendant Googling for info about whether it is accessible. And then bingo, out of pops exactly kind of brief comments about accessibility I've been wishing for. I will take the time to contact the devs to see if I can help in any way to either get Orca to work or to make some other additions to get around it. I love that. I love that they, want to go out there and help resolve the issue, not just say, hey, there is a problem there with, this accessibility. I hope somebody else goes out and fix it, but they're actually taking the cadence to come out there and fix it themselves, which is awesome. And I'm sure Dolphin will appreciate you reaching out as well. For example, he goes on, if an SSH server was running out of the box, it would be possible to boot it and then SSH in from another accessible machine and tinker. Please remember to do this each time you review another distro. It only takes a minute extra or so to either say yay or nay on the subject of whether a distro is accessible or not. Thanks again, Mike. So this is interesting. We've received several emails from the community asking about, can we make sure we cover accessibility when we're talking about a distro?
Mm-hmm.
So this week and last week, we have started to attempt this, and the week before that, so the last 3 weeks, we've attempted this. And I can tell you it's very difficult, which leads to a problem that I didn't know existed until our community reached out to us about it, which is nobody, for the most part, except for your main distro flavors, actually even have a section discussing their accessibility.
Yeah.
So the only way I can actually find out if it has accessibility options or not is to install a distro or burn it onto an ISO and try to look at it for myself And unfortunately, I don't know all the things to look for, but I know the installer being able to read, zoom in, zoom out, magnification capabilities, those type of things are important. So I'm looking for those, but it is way more difficult than it should be. It should be a simple Google search on a distro. They have an accessibility section, which should be a key component, in my opinion, of every documentation, and say whether they have it or not. And it's fine if they don't have it, and there's an opportunity for people to contribute to add one for it, but at least let people know, because it's painful. It takes me now twice as long to put a distro in the news because nobody's documenting this simple fact.
Mm-hmm. And the shame is there are a lot of distros out there with accessibility options, because with my 4K monitors, one of the first things I do is I go and find that accessibility section and tick the box that says large text. Then you don't have to worry about minute headings on all of the windows. So it's there, but as you rightly says, trying to find where it's written and what it's for, it's just non-existent.
So we have a lot of devs that listen to this show. So my ask is, please add in some information into your documentation about accessibility on your website and in your documents, so that individuals who rely on knowing this information to even use your distro know. And number two, I think it is an important thing, and this is an area where the community's reached out to us on an area to improve in that we've embraced. So we will keep trying to talk about this stuff in the future, but thank you for reaching out and telling us about it.
So this goes to prove that we just want to hear from you, our listeners. Send in your favorite Linux software or tips or tricks. We'd love to know about what tool makes your Linux experience amazing. And as we talked about before, is there perhaps a specific Linux topic that you would like us to cover? And this just proves that we do listen, because you guys mentioned accessibility and we're now trying to cover it. So keep those emails coming and send them to comments@destinationlinux.org. Okay, so on to the distro news. And in the wake of 1904 coming out, and I'm not quite sure whether this particular OS came out before or after 1904.
Right after.
But we've got it was just prior, was it?
No,
okay.
it's like it came out like within the next day or something.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well, Pop OS goes 1904. And while it's not going to be possible for us to cover every single distro based upon Ubuntu that's going to go 1904, Pop OS has had a resurgence of popularity just recently. So we wanted to cover some of the changes they're making in addition to what comes packed in the 1904 5 kernel. But initially, there are some unique highlights of Pop OS that are included in this release. So they now have a slim mode option that maximizes your screen real estate by reducing the height of the header on the application windows.
Yes.
Yes, very nice.
That's awesome. Yep. And one of the major problems with stock GNOME.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And they've also now got a dark mode that gives your applications a relaxing ambience for nighttime viewing. Both dark mode and slim mode can be activated in the appearance settings menu. Ryan, there must be loads more. Tell us about a few of them.
Yeah, there is loads more in here. They have updated a course, which I know you'll like, the NVIDIA driver from the 410 to 418, which provides a lot of good hardware and stability fixes, as well as improves GNOME shell animations for them. Besides some enhancements, they've also put some, bug fixes into place. Packaging for both CUDA 10.1 and TensorFlow 1.13.1 toolkits are in place. Popsicle, the installation media creator for Pop! OS, has been improved. And because we want to talk about accessibility here, and I installed Pop! OS on my son's computer, I went to look at this. The only info regarding accessibility on Pop! OS's website is under keyboard shortcuts portion of the manual that I could find. They have toggle screen reader, toggle magnifier, zoom in and zoom out options. I did not see any accessibility options in the installation media at all when I booted the ISO. So that is an area perhaps that they could improve in, or if it's there and I just couldn't find it, then perhaps they could make it something that's a little more easy to identify. And also, again, like we're talking about for every distro, I think they need to just add a section saying accessibility and list out all the features that they have there. But otherwise, look, Pop! OS has gained a ton in popularity. If you're kind of following social media and things out there, people are really taking a second look at it because it has a very unique GNOME implementation, just a lot of nice tweaks, and even things like the wallpaper and the themes that they use make Pop! OS just feel very, very modern in comparison to other implementations of GNOME out there. So it's definitely something I recommend taking a look at if you haven't checked out Pop! OS in a while.
Yeah.
Noah, what are your thoughts?
Well, just before we get to Noah, Noah could probably answer this one for me. One of the things that I've never seen before is refresh install. So you can apparently reinstall Pop! OS over the top of what you've already got, and it doesn't mess up your home directory and all the other bits and pieces. So how is that going to work from a technical standpoint?
Well, you can go ahead, Noah.
I was just going to answer his question, but I mean, so any distribution is capable of doing that, right? If you don't, when you go to install, you're going to create a file system and then you're going to put directories on top of it, depending on how you partition the drive or how you redo that file structure. If I blow away everything in the file structure except for /home, I am going to preserve /home and I will redo everything else, the bootloader, the kernel, all of that stuff. If you could also do it with just a separate partition altogether. But this is really, I think, the important part there is this is what happens when you have a company that takes the time to develop an operating system for their customers, because System 76's goals align with what their customers want. And so if you want an easy to use, ship from the store, a computer that runs Linux, guess what? This Lenovo ThinkPad runs Linux out of the box. So I'm getting that with both brands. What I'm not getting with the ThinkPad and what I am getting with the System 76 is the fact that that computer is going to be built and software is going to be put onto it such that I can reinstall my operating system as a recovery mode, just like I would any other computer. And because of the nature of Linux being everything as a file on Linux, it gives us some additional flexibility that you wouldn't have in a Windows file system.
Yeah, that's true. And it's mainly cool because they took the time to actually create this recovery partition structure so that even if it doesn't, like, by default, any distro could do it, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head that has it built in by default. So this is really cool that they're actually adding it to it. So if you do, like, some people will say that, after a certain amount of time they do a fresh install so they can get rid of all the clutter and stuff like that. It doesn't really happen that bad on Linux anyway, but it's nice that if you wanted the option to kind of have a fresh install while still having all the stuff that you created over that amount of time, you can still have it. So that's really cool that they did it.
And the reason why I asked about this is because one of the biggest things that I hear being asked of the people on the forums is, did you do a fresh install or did you install over the top of your existing root and home partitions? Because a lot of problems occur when you've reinstalled an OS, left your original home partition. So in your .config and your .local and all the other stuff is configurations from a previous install. So they must be doing something that negates that complication. Because if you don't go back in and reinstall those programs, then you've got unnecessary clutter in your .config or your .local. So I thought that was a really good selling point for Pop! OS.
Definitely.
They're gonna get started streaming their stuff here, so I'm gonna reposition here a little bit. See, where can I be out of the way?
How did they not give Noah a whole booth at the Linux Fest? I mean, it's Noah. Hello, people. Where's the respect?
Be like next segment was like, so Noah, your background changed again.
So that guy in the background looks like he's about to start DJing, and that's going to be hilarious in the middle. We start getting.
Some really dodgy sellers.
Just keep moving them around and around and around and around. Hey, what were we trying to sell, Tideman? What did I try to sell?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
I know you were joking, but what were we selling? I forget. Was it me and the FreeNAS server? Oh, the USB keys. Oh, that's funny. dodgy sellers.
Oh, I did. No, you can ask Emma. No, I sat around until I think I stopped looking around.
Just because he wasn't looking again.
Back around 1, 2, or whatever.
Michael, just start going through the show. Go through scientific.
Scientific Linux comes to an end, and then we're going to talk about this, and it's kind of an unfortunate situation that Noah's not paying attention, but now is. But
Oh, just recording a podcast. What are you doing? No. I'm sorry. Say again. No, probably not. Yeah. I'm just gonna do Destination Linux here. Destination Linux, the podcast that I'm doing. All right. Well, you should check it out. Awesome.
you should.
Yeah, totally.
We should have like a red light next time. We're like, hey, recording.
Or maybe actually give Noah a booth.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
Yeah.
See, self cares about
Did they not
Destination
give you a
Linux.
booth, Noah?
I didn't ask for one. I wasn't gonna, be here a lot, so because I was, I'm walking around tables and doing stuff, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. All right.
You ready, Noah?
I am.
All right. So we have some slightly unfortunate news and kind of maybe some positive news depending on how you look at it. Scientific Linux has now announced that they are coming to an end. Fermilab maintained Scientific Linux for many years, and they've decided that they're going to discontinue. They're still going to maintain it for the length of the year that they said that they would, years that they said they would. So if you're still using it, you can continue using it. But they've said that they're no longer going to make new versions, and have decided that they will be using CentOS as their scientific computing base distro. So they'll still be making some in computing environments, and they'll still be making some stuff for Scientific Linux, but instead of having their own distro, they're going to be setting it on top of CentOS. The announcement stated that they're looking to the future of collaboration, and part of that is unifying their infrastructure with other labs and institutions, which CentOS will allow them to accomplish. So I think that this is kind of like it's interesting because it's interesting because we talked about this on a stream that I was on about appliance distros and how this was good, but how Scientific Linux was good for that type of purpose. But I think that this is a better approach because having CentOS, having all of these tools for all the different labs and everybody can collaborate for developing and improving those tools is definitely a much better approach because it has the potential of the community working together to provide something that is very specific use case that may not be getting as much attention as it previously could have. But they're doing this, they'll be able to do it a lot better.
Well, why create it in the first place? What was the issue that was occurring that no longer is? Is it?
So you have schools and you have research facilities that wanted to run software that was designed for RHEL, but they didn't want to. They couldn't or didn't want to pay for RHEL because they didn't feel like they needed a support infrastructure. And RHEL being RHEL said, hey, "Oh, that's fine. Here's the source code. Knock yourself out. Just take all of our trademark logos out." So they did, and they started. They essentially recompiled binary compatible versions of Red Hat as Scientific Linux CentOS, so on and so forth. At some point, Red Hat looked up and went, wait a minute, those guys over Canonical, they give their software away for free, and they're people that use it, and now they're the number one provider on cloud platforms. You know what would be really great is if people would use Red Hat on the cloud. They probably don't want to pay $300 per year per subscription. Maybe we should have a free version that we give away. Although CentOS guys are doing exactly that. Great. Let's go over and throw money in their corner so that they can keep doing what they're doing. We'll just give them paychecks to do it.
So at the time, Scientific Linux, the CentOS wasn't around necessarily at that.
Exactly.
No, I think, no, that's not true. CentOS and Scientific Linux, both of them were binary recompiles of Red Hat, and they both coexisted at the same time.
I think they were created at the same time, so there was a very small gap where they had to choose. It wasn't like CentOS wasn't ready to do what Scientific Linux wanted at the time.
Right, but I guess my point was that they both set out to accomplish the same goal. CentOS just got a little bit more notoriety than Scientific Linux, and if you ask me, it's because Red Hat officially endorsed, even before they owned them, officially endorsed CentOS in all of their training materials. So if you went to a Red Hat certified training course, they would tell you to install CentOS Linux to practice on and to use in production if you needed something that didn't require a license. And it's interesting because that shift is evolving ever more. Today, Red Hat actually gives a free developer license for RHEL proper out. And so if you want to get an actual license and don't have the funds to pay for it, Red Hat actually even allows that. And then you can run RHEL proper with a developer account.
Nice. So let me ask, one of the things that this reminded me of a little bit, not making a direct comparison here, was Ubuntu Studio. And the reason is when I thought about Scientific Linux and I was looking into it, what I noticed is they have a ton of packages that are very specific to the scientific community. So if you were just coming into Linux, and utilizing it as your platform, you may not know all of those exist. When I went into Ubuntu Studio back when I learned Linux, I didn't know all these audio things exist. And that's why I loved Ubuntu Studio when I first used it, because even though there already is an Ubuntu version of Linux, this one had all of the audio stuff packaged there. So is this a case, though, with CentOS where they are going to move probably all the scientific programs exist there, but are they going to move it into a package so people who are getting into that realm have a simple way of just getting all of these apps, much like you would have had on a Scientific Linux?
Yeah, I think they're going to do they haven't really specified exactly what they're going to do as far as like abandoning all of their approaches as far as like making their own like ISO. They haven't talked about that. They're not going to make Scientific Linux as a separate entity anymore or a separate distro. They might still be releasing Scientific Linux as a base of CentOS. So you still get the pre-default installed stuff. If you've never heard of it, you don't know what tools they are, they might still give you the option. While at the same time, you could still install the stuff into CentOS. I think that's what they're going for, but they haven't really specified if they're going to continue making ISOs or not, or if they're just going to have an installer that you can put onto CentOS. So I think it'd be either way. It'd be useful for the other labs and other research institutions to benefit from. But I do think that if you're just now getting into it,
I don't know if I agree with that.
What do you mean?
Well, because we spend one of our primary customers or one of the places that we do a lot of Linux support for is the university systems, right? And all of those are doing research, and almost all of them are all of the software manufacturers that manufacture research software. Nobody is writing for Scientific Linux, right? Like those packages are written for RHEL or RHEL binary compatible systems. I don't know if there's really anything in 2019 that Scientific Linux is doing that any other RHEL clone wouldn't do or RHEL proper wouldn't do.
Well, I just meant like the beneficial to provide people who are like not a part of an institution that or might want to implement this in a like an institution that doesn't have anything right now and they want to, like a small one that's trying to implement something, they could get the benefit of having
CentOS.
They could get the benefit of having CentOS and Scientific Linux stuff on top of it. So like if they made an ISO that's just CentOS that has the stuff, they could get that as like an introductory thing. But at the same time, they'd still, because they're using CentOS as the base, you still get the benefit of all the binary compatibility of Red Hat. So I think that it's I don't know if they're doing it or not. I kind of hope if they provide both options for people who need it and people who don't, because that would be much better for like brand new institutions that are trying to implement Linux in some way. So I hope that's what they're going to do. But I have
one more question to poke the bear a little bit here in this case, perhaps in this conversation, but I've noticed and this is just gut feeling because I've not done research on it, but you all have been in Linux much longer than me. One of the big complaints I've heard from Linux, fair or not, I'm not saying it's a legitimate complaint, but one of the complaints you hear is there's too much choice. There's too many distros, there's too many flavors and spin-offs and stuff. It seems like, in my opinion, in the last couple of years, we're starting to cover a lot of news where some of these flavors are converging and ending. Is this the start of something bigger? Are we going to start seeing this happen at an accelerated rate now?
No, I understand. You don't want to stay better. You don't want to say the word better. And I understand why you don't want to say the word better. But the truth is, it's better. We are at a point where any idiot can spin a distro, right? Any idiot. The tools are widely enough available, and Linux is popular enough that any idiot can sit down and throw some code together, put some packages together, and spin up an ISO and offer it for download. And the problem with doing that is it is detrimental to new Linux users because they come in and they look at something and say, oh, look, there's a distro that does XYZ. That's the distro that I should use because I want to do XYZ. And then you come find out distro XYZ is really just an Ubuntu base that the distro maintainer never updates, and package 4 tools on top of it because that's the 4 tools that guy uses, and it's some piece of crap spin-off by one guy that kind of haphazardly does it in the community. And I think that's way more detrimental to us as a whole community than it's ever been helpful. There are very few esoteric distros that are truly a benefit to everybody out there. Now there are some, right? Like I think Kali Linux. I guess esoteric might not be the right term, but purpose-specific distros, like Kali Linux or Clonezilla or any of those appliance-like utilities. Yeah. Some of those are okay and good, and I'm glad we have them. But by and large, every time somebody has a different workflow does not necessarily mean that we should have a different distro for it.
I mean, I would agree with that, but I think the fragmentation is both a benefit and a curse. So like it has some benefits of having those appliance structures like the Kodi LibreELEC style stuff, and then we have the benefits of all the other appliance based things. It is good that we have those in certain aspects, but there are a ton of distros that are just, they don't need to exist. I mean, you said that there's certain workflow that they have. I've seen distros that only exist because they have a different theme. And like, why? Just don't even bother.
Well, is it, on your show, Noah, when I hear your interviews, and even on our show, when we talk to developers and say, why do this spinoff? Why did you create this? One of the top answers I generally hear relates to, well, I tried to get this particular distro to do XYZ, or for them to implement this type of feature that I needed, and they refused when I went on the dev forums. They weren't interested. They wouldn't listen to me. So I went off and created my own. So is that a situation that's ever going to get resolved? Because you've always in Linux have people that are, over the main distros. If let's say we got down to 3 or 4 that maybe, somebody's doing it better, but they just don't want to do it because they don't want to maintain it. They don't see the vision. I mean, isn't that a way that we're pushing Linux forward through this?
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality. We wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. Linux wouldn't be as successful as it is today if we didn't have competition, right? So you can't. I'm not advocating that we eliminate competition in any stretch of the imagination. But one of the, I guess where I come to, how I would answer that question is this: distros have to be willing to acknowledge when they are no longer. If you see a hole in the community and you want to try and fill it, I don't have any beef with that. Knock yourself out. In fact, we would never have things like Clonezilla. We'd never have things like Kali Linux if somebody didn't say, hey, you know what? It's a real pain in the tuchus to configure Debian or to configure Ubuntu to be a penetration testing distro. It requires us to install a bunch of utilities and tiny little one-off pieces of software. It also requires special configuration of the network interface. It's also one of the few times you want to run as the root user. Like, there's all of these things that we need to be able to do penetration testing. That we should probably try its own distro. If they were listening to me and my advice and said, well, Noah says don't make distros just because for a certain workflow, the Linux community would be a lot worse off, right? So that advice has to be taken with a grain of salt. But if tomorrow you wake up and all of the penetration, the entire market is using a stock Ubuntu install and putting their own tools on top of it, you have to wake up, smell the coffee, and say, hey, listen, stop trying to talk people into your distro and start making distros for those that don't have them. I had a conversation, this is a couple years ago, and a guy came up to me and he asked me, he said, how can I, here's my distro, I spun it up. How do you think I could go about getting people to use it? And aside from the enormity of the fact that he wanted to be, the next de facto Linux desktop distro, which is a big feat in and of itself, I asked him to really consider the question, why? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want people to use your distro over Ubuntu? What's wrong with Ubuntu being the de facto distro? And he didn't have an answer for me. And that really told me all I needed to know is a lot of these people approach these subjects as in, well, how can I get people on my boat? And the question we should be asking is, where are the holes in the water that need some boats for people to get into? right? So I guess that's my answer back to you. I'm not saying we stifle competition. I'm not saying that isn't what makes Linux better. I'm just saying we tend to go about that in the wrong way, and it tends to fracture the community, and it tends to do more harm in the long run than good, because you wind up with people all over the place.
Well, what we're doing is, in a lot of cases, it seems like a situation that could be solved with a simple script or grouping applications together into a single package versus creating the whole wheel and respinning your own version of a entire distro versus just packaging a bunch of software that the scientific community needs, or the audio community needs, or whatever, or creating a simple install script, and it's simpler to maintain for
way
people,
more valuable to the community.
Problems.
But,
absolutely.
But by the same token, though, you might have people out there who aren't comfortable offering their services to the likes of Ubuntu or Manjaro or whoever you'd like to do, but they want to get into Linux deeper. So they come along, they take, I'll tell you what, I like that base, but I'd like it if it did this, that, and the other. And they go along and they make their own distro for whatever reason. And then having done that for 2 or 3 years, they say, do you know what? I'm actually quite good at this. Hi, Ubuntu. This is some of the work I've done. Can I help you anywhere? And that's given them the confidence to then move on and contribute to another project. So I wouldn't like to see that go away entirely.
No, of course not.
I understand exactly where you're coming from.
So to qualify what... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say a classic example of what Michael was talking about is there's a Voyager Linux out there, which is just a Ubuntu clone. And he openly admits that he took Ubuntu and just put his look and feel on it. But there are some really clever things that he does on his particular distro. Now, if he then decides to drop Voyager in a few years' time, he could quite easily then get in touch with Sean and say, hey, look, I've been making my own distro for a few years. Where can I help you out on now? So that's where I think some of the benefits could come through from these guys tinkering with this open source software.
I'll give you a perfect example of what Ryan is saying, and then I'll give a perfect example of what Zeb's saying. So, Ryan, we are when we set up broadcast appliances, the guy Fred Gleason, the guy who developed Rivendell, there's no Rivendell appliance distro, much to the chagrin or the a lot of people are unhappy about the fact that you can't just download an ISO and make a Rivendell appliance, right? But the advantage to that is, and what Fred would tell you is, that there are, if you want to buy an appliance, then he sells boxes and there's a premium for that. If you want to put the software on yourself, he offers exactly what you said, a script that goes through and pulls down from repositories everything you need, and then other scripts that go and configure the system to be used for broadcast. And I've come to appreciate that, because it means I just have to carry my CentOS stick with me, and I can turn any CentOS box into a broadcast appliance. But to Zeb's point, one of the things that we're doing at Altispeed right at this very moment, in fact, I had a meeting with the guy at Linux Fest Northwest about this, is we are creating a distro for kiosk use. And it's not that there aren't distros out there that are designed for kiosk use. They just, in my opinion, are not as good as what we're going to do. And so we're going to try to compete in that space. But I'm not going to go out there and try to convince everybody that has a kiosk that ours is better. I'm going to create that software for our use case. And if it happens to take off and it organically happens to become more popular, and I think it probably will, than existing kiosk software out there, then I'm fine with that, and we'll continue to support it and make it for everybody. If not, we'll just keep it in-house. But I'm not going to go out and talk to people and say, hey, you know what you need to do? If you have a kiosk, you need to use our software because ours is better than the other guy. That I think is where the problem is.
Interesting. Well, good conversation, and I think it will be interesting to see in the future how many of these kind of distro flavor spinoffs that may not be necessary realize it's time to maybe call it quits and move their stuff into just a package onto another distro, a core distro, and go help out and build something along with appliance that's a little more popular and useful.
Mm-hmm.
A new Lenovo Edge server is out, and this thing is really cool. It is the SE350. Now, Lenovo has released some information on this server, and it is unique because of its small form factor. Now, my personal opinion is that this device is really not modeled after, that's the wrong way to put it, but this device comes in the wake of things like the Mac Mini, the Raspberry Pi, the Intel Nooks, all of these are small form factor PCs, and what manufacturers I think have caught on is that people like small machines that they can put everywhere, attach to the back of TVs, attach on the back of walls, put in broom closets, stuff like that, and with a height of 1.75 inches, a width of 8.1 inches, and a depth of 14.9 inches. This is a tiny little machine, and I personally will purchase one is the second it becomes available for purchase. The reason is it's a small profile device, which means it can go on the back of any rack or mounted to the wall. And the truth is, in a lot of business environments, they don't want the overhead of a rack. If you have a rack, you have to have a PDU. If you have a PDU, you probably want a switch. If you have a switch, you probably want a patch panel. And by the time you get done with all of those things, now you're sitting at $400 or $500 just in infrastructure to mount a server in. There is something to be said about screwing the thing to the wall, plugging it into a wall plate, and calling it good. It has tamper resist. The chassis itself is tamper resistant. It seeks to be encrypted with self-destruction. Some other features include a plug-in go features that you don't need physical access to, Wi-Fi and LTE connections, a Xeon D processor, up to 256 gigabytes of RAM, 16 terabytes, up to a 16 terabyte solid state hard drive, and support for the NVIDIA Tesla T4 for edge interfacing or AI deployment. So I think this is going to be a really competitive product. And like I say, I'll be purchasing. What do you guys think?
I was super excited to see this. You know, one of the implementations I thought of, Noah, is we were talking in Telegram about potential business opportunities. And that business opportunity, I thought of this perfectly, meaning, you know, like you said, a lot of people who are starting out their businesses, their small business, they don't want to invest or even have the space for that matter. I remember my dad's first shop, you couldn't put a server rack in there if you wanted to. There wasn't enough space. But being able to mount something that's a powerful server, it's capable of doing very powerful tasks, especially when you look at the specs in here, as well as having enterprise grade level options within it that you can mount to a wall or mount several of them to a wall if you needed to, is amazing. The touch and go capability, plug and go capability, where if you have a situation where you're providing servers as a service and some services that you're pre-installing on there, you basically do the setup, you ship it to them. You don't have $5,000 in shipping costs because it's not a giant unit, and you ship it to them. They mount it to a wall, plug it in, and they're ready to go. Just very cool stuff that they're doing here. When I seen this, and then I looked over at my 29-inch by 19-inch server, I thought, I got to get one of these too, and just see how this compares, because the wife wouldn't be quite as mad with this little form factor server versus what I have. But yeah, I think it's very cool.
I know it says there's no pricing, but have we got any indicative amounts that it might come out at?
It's going to depend on how you probably stack the features in this thing.
Here would be my guess. I'm comparing this to, if you look at the Dell Optiplex 3020 series, it's almost an identical form factor. Well, actually, this might be a little deeper, but it's a very similar form factor, we'll say. And so I would guess you're probably going to be in that $1,500 to $2,000 price range if I were a betting man, depending on how you configure it. Obviously, you put 256 gigs of RAM, you can about quadruple that price.
Yeah. But I love the LTE connectivity options as well that are
they're going for appliances. That's what they're designing, and it's good because there aren't a lot of options out there for commercial enterprise grade stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so now on to some Team Green news. And NVIDIA have released... Sorry?
Gross. Team Green.
Gross? Team Green? Team Green for the win all day long, boys.
Okay, all right.
Not this case.
So let's get on to the serious aspects of this particular news article, because NVIDIA have released the GeForce GTX 1650. So they've announced the release of this video card, and it's going to come in at around $150. But of course, that does not include any of the new ray tracing capabilities for that price. This card is said to deliver double the performance of the old GTX 950 Maximal and can do so with only 75 watts. So this means that you can just buy this card, plug it into your computer, and not have to worry about any other power supplies, and away it goes. Now, you're wondering, well, NVIDIA have captured the market. They've got all the high-end stuff. Why are they bothering with this low-end stuff? And I think it's because AMD have taught them the way. But as of NVIDIA,
Hold on a
and
second.
Team
Hold on a
Green-
second. You said AMD taught them the way, and then it had a little hiccup.
Right. Okay. Now, I did ask myself, why are NVIDIA going down this route? And I think it's because AMD have showed them the way. And although I'm a fanboy of NVIDIA and I am Team Green through and through, I think if I was looking at this price range, I'd probably go for the 570 or the 580 because I think it's just a better deal. But they've realized that they might have captured the top end of the market, but there's an awful lot of work going on at that lower end. Now, I know you always look into these types of things, Ryan. So what's your impression of the 1650?
I was very excited actually at first that NVIDIA is starting to play ball in this low to mid-range style cards. It's important from a competitive standpoint. And the fact is, while some of us, have the abilities and to buy some of these very expensive cards, your average market consumer doesn't. Or even kids who are just getting into gaming and things, they don't have, when they compare that to a $400 PlayStation, to go out there and spend $700 on just a video card and play the same. It's not really equating, right? So I think AMD was smart to go after the market they went after, which was low to mid at first, until they could release things like they're starting to, and what will have come out, of course, later this year.
Mm-hmm.
And NVIDIA is taking note. I think you're going to have a lot more cards selling at this level, especially since Bitcoin is no longer at this current state profitable for mining for most people. So what you've seen before is everyone was getting these high-end cards, and NVIDIA and AMD both couldn't even keep them on the shelf. You couldn't buy them. And it wasn't because all these people suddenly had $700 for video cards. It was because people were creating massive server farms of video cards. They were buying thousands at a time to Bitcoin mine. And that's why the prices of them shot up. Now, NVIDIA doesn't have that advantage now. Now they're seeing the true value of their cards sitting out there at $700 and $1,000 and $1,600, and they're not flying off the shelf. In fact, when I was at Best Buy and Fry's the other day, they were all sitting there. They had tons of stock of these cards. You couldn't even find one 7-8 months ago in a store. So now I think NVIDIA is smart. They're saying, okay, well, we need to go after the lower market here. Unfortunately, this card, from everything I've seen, is a complete bust. It is slower than the RX 570. It doesn't deliver near the performance that they should be, especially on a card that's coming out way later than the 570. And even the reviewers who are pro NVIDIA and Team Green, which I do watch, Zeb, because I was Team Green at one point too, they basically are poo-pooing all over this card because it's just not even on the same level as the 570, which is actually cheaper.
And older and cheaper and does better. Yeah. There was
but
one.
Do you know what the problem is? It's NVIDIA, so people will just buy it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's possible. That's also true. But there's all these YouTubers have said that it's just not even worth caring about. They even said that when one of them that I watched, he said that the title of the video was, "Is NVIDIA even trying anymore?" Because there was this one. They got the card in like 2 weeks in advance of the actual release, but the drivers were not available, so they couldn't actually test anything. And they were like, well, why do they not give us the drivers? Maybe they're trying to hide something. And then he goes through and says, yes, they're trying to hide something. They're hiding a lot. It is some stuff that they're saying that, the touring technology is included in this, except for the part that you actually care that it's there is not being used by the touring. It's being used by something else. I forgot what he said. But they have so many things that are hiding that they're just hoping that the brand of NVIDIA is enough to get people to buy this. But he said if you're going to buy something at this level, the 570 is cheaper, better, and even though it's older, it does everything better. He said, in comparison, it decimated the NVIDIA card on every test that they did. And in one, they said, and specifically one test, they didn't actually show on the record because the NVIDIA card didn't even work with it. It just crashed. So
NVIDIA does have the capability. Yeah, it is interesting. NVIDIA does have the capability, much like AMD, because AMD is not innocent here. They'll release a card and 3 months later, there's a better driver and the thing kicks up in performance and is way better. So there is the possibility the 1650 will become a true competitor and they just haven't unlocked its potential yet. But I don't see that as often in NVIDIA as I do AMD, for instance.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, though. It continues to make me think that when you look at the new cards that are coming out, there's the new 7 nanometer GPUs and also CPUs, Ryzen 3 series, and other elements, Intel's potential graphic card coming into the market. All of those that I just said are likely to run into the same situation that we've run into with the Radeon 7, in which all of the drivers will be built into the kernel, and all of these distros that take 6 to 8 months to update their kernels in between versions, we're going to be leaving these cards out to dry unless there's something done where the hardware enablement stacks are moved faster into these older versions of the kernels for backwards compatibility, because Intel's about to enter this market as well, and they're going to do the same thing AMD is and release their drivers into the kernel. So there's a bigger problem here that I keep seeing, because AMD is capturing the market. Before, it was fine for a distro just to focus on NVIDIA because they owned 80-90% of the market. That's shifting quickly, and NVIDIA is bombing faster and faster and faster. And I really think that distros need to pay attention to AMD a little more.
I agree. It's also interesting that that NVIDIA is having this issue because they typically never had this problem. Their drivers were ready very quickly. They are actually more quickly available for Linux users now than the Windows people, and the Windows people are having issues. So it's just interesting that NVIDIA is trying to keep up with AMD's, like, their push is getting so much, like, they're getting so much attention and so much stuff that it feels like NVIDIA just kind of pushed this release before it was ready.
Yep.
Hey, just before you pick up the next story, I have 19 minutes, and then I've got to be out of here.
Okay, I'll do this one quick.
Okay.
So next in our news is the Intel Cascade Lake processor, and specifically the benchmarks for this. So perhaps you're getting ready to upgrade your servers at work, or you're building a new server for your home. And if you have a comfortable budget, that is, you may be looking at the new Intel Cascade Lake processor family out there. And you might be asking yourself, should I install Windows on this new server with these new beautiful processors I just bought? Or should I install FreeBSD? Or should I install Linux? Let's just pretend here for a second, because we know the answer is always Linux. Yeah. But Phoronix has performed some benchmarks just to make sure, in case you were questioning, on the new Platinum 8280s. So there's 2 of these, which means in this system, the server he had set up, you have 56 cores and 112 threads. That is probably powerful enough to run SuperTux Kart. I'm not sure, but definitely some serious power there under there from a server standpoint. So just to summarize, I just look at if you're interested, but I did rank these scores from best to worst in the various benchmarks, and I'm only going to read to you the top 2 in each of the segments. So doing some SQLite inserts, benchmarks, FreeBSD, OpenSUSE were the fastest out. And by the way, we're comparing FreeBSD, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu, Clear, CentOS, Windows Server, and Windows Server WSL. So the Linux layer within Windows are all in the benchmark. So FreeBSD, OpenSUSE was the fastest. IOZone write performance, OpenSUSE and Ubuntu. JSON, OpenSUSE and Ubuntu. Go, OpenSUSE and Clear. Video encoding, Clear and FreeBSD took the first and second spot. FLAC, Clear and OpenSUSE. Blender, Clear and OpenSUSE. PHP, Clear and OpenSUSE took the first and second place. So looking at these scores, the winner here clearly was Clear Linux, won most of the benchmarks, and second place went to OpenSUSE. So I have to ask, is this surprising to any of you that those 2 are the top or fastest in running this Intel server platform benchmark?
Clear, no, because Intel makes Clear and it should have a good performance. And also, Clear is heavily focused on trying to get like the best performance benchmarks, like a lot. It's also not very user friendly, but there's that thing. But I am surprised that OpenSUSE is that high in the testing for all this stuff, because you kept saying Clear and OpenSUSE, Clear and OpenSUSE. It's like, that's very interesting.
It was very interesting. So third place went to CentOS. FreeBSD and Ubuntu were tied, and Windows came in dead last. Noah, I have to ask you, because I know you're a big CentOS person. Are you surprised at all? Do you even care?
No, I'm a little surprised. Here's the thing. CentOS tends to be a very, very light distro. And I mean, I've run CentOS with 500 I almost said 500 gigs of RAM, 512 megs of RAM. And I do that pretty regularly, actually, depending on what the job of the server is. So it's a very, very light distro out of the box, and of course you can stack as much on top of it as you want. To see OpenSUSE come in second, that surprises me. Windows being dead last No surprise there.
Exactly.
They're coming in first. Not really a surprise there.
Nice.
So up next in the show, Handshake is at it again. Handshake has donated $300,000 to Debian. This is a company that does, I don't remember. Okay.
Stick to the bullet.
You're right. You got to do it quickly, so I can't do my whole little winging. So up next in the show, Handshake is at it again. They've donated $300,000 to Debian. Debian received a generous donation from the Handshake company, and Debian stated that this is significant financial contribution will help Debian to continue the hardware replacement plan designed for the Debian system administrators, renewing servers and other hardware components, and thus making the development and community infrastructure of the project more reliable. This is actually really cool because Handshake isn't done here. In fact, they'll be donating upwards to $10 million to various FLOSS developers and projects, as well as nonprofit organizations and universities to support free software development and maybe Linux and open source podcasting people. So
they donated to Arch, so I love them already.
There you go. So this begs the questions: who is Handshake? So in short, Handshake is a decentralized, permissionless naming protocol compatible with DNS. It's kind of like on the blockchain type of approach, and in which every peer-to-peer is validating and in charge of managing the root zone with the goal of creating an alternative to existing certificate authorities. This is pretty interesting because it has a lot of potential to make the web more robust and more secure because of everybody is checking to see if the certificates are authenticated or not, rather than just dealing with hoping that the certificate authorities are keeping up to date with everything.
So to kind of put this in better perspective, and I know, Michael, you are going to know more about this than any of us, but from what I was able to understand, when we talk about top domains in the root zone, because a lot of this is not centralized today when it comes to websites, right? It's not a centralized thing, but when it comes to the root that they're trying to centralize here, what we're talking about is .com, .biz, those specific top level domains, right? That's what they're referencing, switching out, utilizing blockchain. And this runs on top of the current technology so that it's not a situation where you have to choose one or the other. They're going to kind of go together.
Right. You get the benefit of having both. And you really can't replace the existing TLD structure because it's so convoluted. And it has there's the system of the .com, .org, and .net were all created by the U.S. government and then handed off to the ICANN organization. And the ICANN organization then takes that and gives it to the registry companies or registrar companies who then sell access to them and stuff. So there's no owner of those. So having there's a lot of confusion in who gets to control that thing. So adding the stuff on top of it with this Handshake approach allows you to have more secure and more make sure that the certificates are more reliable, they're more decentralized as well. But at the same time, a lot of other TLDs are centralized because they're controlled by a particular entity or a particular country and all that other stuff. So for the most part, there is centralization in a way in a lot of TLDs, but the main ones that are most people that have been around the longest have some decentralization, but not on purpose. So this is a way to secure it in the sense of make sure that the certificate authorities are more up to date and more known and reliable, without also having that layer of making sure that you don't have to worry about the massive confusion behind these different TLDs. And there's also some more stuff that ICANN's doing in right now about basically messing up .org that's happening, that is potentially going to happen, messing up .org and .biz and some other ones. So this is something that is definitely would be useful when it happens. So I'm happy that they're making it, and also happy that they're donating so much to the community, because this is just really amazing that they're taking the profits.
Heck of a fundraiser. And what it is they just had an excess of fundraising of more than they needed, of $10 million. So they're giving it back to the community. But you can see how important that is, that they've raised that much money in order to implement this, because the decentralization of control of web could be very dangerous. If one company could be manipulated, it could change things entirely in the infrastructure. By moving it to blockchain, one person can't do anything, right? The entire block has to prove it. So I think it's a really cool thing that they've done here, and I will be watching this project with a lot of interest.
Yeah, you make a great point. Also because ICANN's kind of messing up .org, and .org is heavily used in nonprofits and open source communities and stuff. Even Destination Linux has a .org address, and their ICANN is basically is going to allow, or is they're saying that they're going to allow, but people are still trying to combat that. But they're saying that they're going to allow the people who run the .org registrar stuff to basically increase the price to whatever they want. Because right now there's a lock about what a specific prices you're allowed to use to sell the .org, and they're basically trying to make it where the registrars can just pick whatever they want. So that would be very bad. Like, it makes sense that the TLDs of like .ninja could pick whatever they want because they paid to do that, whereas the .org, they didn't pay to do it, so it's much more complicated. So I'm glad, like, a handshake doing this has a lot of potential to improve some aspects of that problem.
Okay, so do we want to take?
Can we just skip out the Microsoft one?
Yep.
I was going to say, is Noah going to have enough time?
But I don't think Noah has enough time, and Noah's already done a ton to get us this far.
And I'm wondering, do we just sort of like, Noah's got to go away, but he'll be back for the end, and we finish off the show, but then Noah's video is going to disappear on you, Michael, and muck up everybody's positions. So we just need to talk about how we're going to finish.
How about we just Burning Nights, do we care, Ryan?
No.
The Microsoft Edge, we don't care. Epic Game Store, I think we do care. So can we fit in the tips and tricks plus the Epic Game Store?
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Okay. I think we can do it too.
So I'm running next, right?
You're running next for the Epic Game Store, and then I'll switch. Then I'll jump to the Software Spotlight.
Okay. Cool. So up next in the news, and this one I'm hoping I can kind of get Michael's attention here because he is very passionate about this subject. But Epic Game Store is now available on Linux, which is shocking because this is the same Epic Game Store that said we have no interest in Linux.
Because they didn't do it and someone else did it.
Well, I was getting to that. You completely you're the type of person that when you're watching the new Avengers just tells the ending.
No, I would never do that. It's just like you're basically saying like
I was baiting. Yes, they didn't do it. Lutris, in fact, made the Epic Game Store work on Linux. Lutris does lots of awesome things to make gaming work properly on Linux, and the Epic Game Store is now in addition to that. What I found interesting is the CEO of Epic Games, Tim Sweeney, replied to Lutris' tweet about, hey, we got Epic Game Store working on Linux using Lutris, and said, you should apply for one of our grants, and seemed to have some interest in this project, probably because he noticed all of the retweets and popularity of Lutris and thought, man, it's probably be pretty stupid of me to mess with Linux again, and maybe I'll try to jump on this. So at least they do have grants for adding features in. Is this a good step that the Epic CEO, Michael, kind of, put a little olive branch out and said, hey, this is pretty cool. Why don't you apply for a grant from us and see what we can do with it?
Lutris, great job. I'm really happy that you did this. It doesn't change my opinion of Epic. Because like the CEO, like, yeah, here's an olive branch. At the same time, I'm going to slap you with that branch before, because he did the thing where he said using Linux for gaming is like someone who just complained about the president of the United States getting the person they don't want and then moving to Canada. Like, we got to fix the Windows where it is now. We have to worry about what we're using now. We don't have to worry. Like, so he makes fun of Linux all the time, and he's been doing it for years. So no, I don't think that this one olive branch changes my opinion of Epic. Yes, there are some times where they do things that are good. They open sourced sort of Unreal Engine, but they didn't make it work on Linux. The community made it work on Linux. So yes, they are doing certain things.
Just got out of the way.
Yeah, they just get, and the same thing with here. Like they had nothing to do with it, and the only reason it worked is because it's Electron based. So that there's benefits that Lutris could make it work, and all they do is kind of get out of the way for us to fix it ourselves. They don't really put the effort in themselves to do anything. So I still don't like Epic Games in that sense, but at least they're sort of willing to listen to the community when the community just refuses to listen to them and does it ourselves. So awesome. Thank you, Lutris. That is awesome. I can't wait to try some games, especially if Borderlands 3 works through this what y'all did. Amazing. So there you go. But yeah, Epic Games.
Mad love to Lutris, where the love belongs.
Exactly. Also, where some love belongs is PDF. Not really. That's weird.
You got to leave that in.
So anyway, up next in our spotlight is the PDF Arranger, which is a really cool tool. It's a Python GTK-based application that allows you to merge, split, rotate, crop, and rearrange pages in a PDF. Because editing a PDF is, very annoying, even if you have Adobe stuff. But it's really cool that they are making this application because it allows you to use like an interactive and intuitive graphical interface to manipulate these PDF files much more easily, and you can manage them as a lot easier as well.
Yep, absolutely. PDF Ranger, having to deal with closing on a house not so long ago, and the sheer amount of PDFs that were sent that needed to be combined with other documents this is a lifesaver type of tool. If you don't use PDFs a lot, you may go, who cares? I don't need anything like this. But the moment that you do, you will be begging for, what was that application they had again that does the PDF stuff? Because it's so obnoxious otherwise. So it's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our tip and trick of the week is BC. Now, BC is a command line calculator that is included with most distros but can be installed from your repository if needed. The tool allows you to be scientific, financial, or simple calculations and perform them right from the terminal. Simply type BC in the terminal to invoke your type of operation, such as 7 times 7 or 7 minus 7, and press enter. It supports addition, subtraction, multiplication, parentheses, exponents, and etc. So etc. So check that out. That is one of those tools that I had no idea existed in the command line. I'm happy to learn about it. It definitely is something I'd be willing to use. I don't know if I'm trying to think. I guess the simple just addition and subtraction. There's more times than not I bang open a calculator just to bang something out. But if I can do that from the terminal, especially with the drop-down terminal, that'd be really nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And extra tip, KRunner has it built in too.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you can do I don't know if it's BC, but you can do calculations inside of KRunner, like the basic simple stuff.
I think you are going to have to read some of the instructions though, because by default, 22 divided by 7 is 3. So that's the answer that comes out in the terminal, whereas we all know it's 3.1415926. So, or in fact, by the calculator terminology, it's 3.1428571. It's not proper pi. So there must be some configuration in there somewhere.
It rounds up more than likely, probably.
More decimal points, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Zeb bringing the heat.
Nice. I like it.
Math is hard.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. We love our patrons and coffee supporters. We just want to give a special shout out to all of you for your continued support. We do a live show for patrons, so you can come join us live and watch this show, be a part of the show at the beginnings and the end before we start filming and recording. And you can join for just one measly little dollar you probably could find in your couch cushion, and that's darn near free, so do it.
That's right. We're now on Coffee as a way to support the show. Coffee offers a nice monthly option that allows you to have the same perks as those folks over at Patreon, except you're not a patron. You're a coffee supporter or a coffee buyer or a coffee giver.
Coffee patron.
That is not – we're not getting –
we don't have time to get into it.
Triggered.
There'll be a link for this in the show notes, and you can go to our website to join Coffee, not Patreon. The perks include things like access to the live shows and unedited versions, as well as our sincere gratitude. So please check that out. Check the show notes for more information.
And as usual, get back to us and let us know what you think of the show. Ask any burning questions via the numerous methods. Let us know whether or not you think you are a coffee patron. And send your emails to comments@destinationlinux.org. You can comment on our Telegram group, our Discord group, Twitter, Mastodon, and other ways.
I'll be kicking people who identify as coffee patrons.
We're going to start a war between Ko-fi and Patreon members. They're all going to fight each other.
Single click and double click, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
folks.
Yeah.
We don't like them.
So the good news is Michael has got all these methods of contacts for Destination Linux at destinationlinux.org/contact. So please keep them coming.
Yep, and if you want to get more content, the fun doesn't stop here. We also have our own channels and podcast. Where you can check out Ryan. You can find out his at youtube.com/DOSGeek, where he does videos about hardware reviews and some various different geeky things, as well as tutorials. You can also check out Zeb on his YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/ZebedyBoss, where
he teaches you how to plug in a USB
He shows
drive.
you how to plug in USB drives.
Which Noah needed earlier.
Right. And you can also check out my content at tuxdigital.com, and you can check out This Week in Linux podcast, where I do news, very in-depth news research around various different topics of the week. You can check out Noah's show, where it's the Ask Noah show, where he takes call-in live questions from the audience, whether it's business, tech, or Linux questions. It's a really interesting show. Check it out. Also, be sure to like that smash button and share the show on social media.
Everybody, have a great week, and remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. Have a good week. We'll see you next Sunday.
Yep,
Thanks, everyone. We did it!
Sweet. Thank you, guys. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Dude,
Right on
This was
time.
this was like one of those movies though that's going along really well, like, and then it's ready, you're getting ready, and all of a sudden it's like, finished.
It kind of is that, yeah.
yeah.
But on the bright side, we just skipped stuff that doesn't really
We
need to be
feel
talked
it,
about.
but thankfully they won't show it. They won't feel that by the time it gets out onto the main show. But
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the canary one I'm going to bring back to the next episode because
Sure.
the questions I have in there I think would be interesting content, not the story itself, but
I
the
agree.
question of what would it take for that browser. So yeah, we'll bring that one next week. But anyway,
just don't bring back Burning Nights, please.
all right, fair enough. In your defense, Zeb, gaming's been weak lately as far
It
as
has. It's been. I love it.
so tough for me to find a good game to like talk about. I'm like, man, Noah, thank you for going way above and beyond and flipping backwards and moving 17 times and carrying cases and everything.
Absolutely.
Just bring with us, man.
Listen, I have my priorities straight, okay?
You.
Linux first, everything else second.
Right.
I love it.
Exactly.
Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Everybody, you can turn your camera on and microphone if you want to for patrons.
And I will be skipping out early as well because one of the reasons why we started early is we're going to a moonshine factory. That's where we're going.
What?
I'm going to try some moonshine, folks.
We should have done the show after that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
Yes.
Yeah,
That'd
it would
be
be
great.
a lot of fun then. That was funny though, Zeb. You're right. Like we were moving along great, and then the ending. We're over. It's done.
Yep. It is
This
kind
will
of
be one of our shortest episodes probably in a long time.
Yeah, it's gonna be about a little bit over an hour. I think an hour and 10 minutes. It's gonna be a little bit. That's one of the shortest ones we've done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go off, people. Paul, what's this link you're putting in?
Voyager.
It's a
we're
it's a
not
game
doing
to
that
troll
next week.
Zeb, I think.
He's trolling me. You started a whole new game here. Did you see Tyler and those icon sets that he put into Telegram?
No, I didn't see it.
Pixelated icons.
I love it.
They were awful.
Wow.
Everybody loves this troll.
Hey, bit.
We finally found
Yeah.
something to troll Zeb on that people aren't bothered by.
You know, I had Forager in the news, funny enough, because this reminded me of Isaac, Bindings of Isaac. Did we cover this last week?
We covered Binding of Isaac before, but I don't know about anything else.
I could have sworn I looked this up. Maybe I just didn't add it because we were out of. I had too many slots already filled up.
Are you talking about Burning Nights? Is that what you're talking about?
No, Forager. Oh wait,
and I've just gone back to these again. £15. Seriously? You're talking, I think it's what, $20 for you guys?
Yeah, yeah.
$20.
That's $1 per pixel. What are you talking about? It's a good deal.
You're right, Michael. I
Okay.
thought the game that Paul sent, Forager, was the one I was writing. Reminds me of Binding Isaac, but apparently Burning Night does and Forager. Because look at them both; they almost
Yeah.
look exactly the same.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of games that are very similar now. And there's actually like probably 4 or 5 that are like look like Burning Isaac.
Well, just
We'll
so
talk
that Paul
about
knows
how
what
the-
you're talking
it was
about, Ryan,
great.
I'm going to give him the link.
Okay.
He can have a look at that now. So that'll be right up his street because he loves that sort of nonsense.
That nonsense. Love it. No, I think Binding of Isaac was so popular that everybody naturally is just going through the rip-off route of creating a game like it because it was so simple to create. The concept was simple, but what made Bindings of Isaac so popular was also a very messed up storyline in a very kiddish like game. So because of that, I don't know these other games will quite capture that almost.
I mean, they're just trying to copy it. They're not going to capture it for sure.
Yeah, that story that Binding of Isaac brought in that made it so appealing.
Yeah, it's also was unique
appealing,
too.
But shocking.
It was unique in their style and approach. So like that's why it kind of got popular. And I think there's going to be a lot of this stuff. But this happens all the time. Anything that gets popular like that level is going to have copies. You know, there's also I like to call it the Nickelback effect.
Nickelback effect. Oh my gosh. Why did we have to bring Nickelback into this?
Because if you think about it, Nickelback is incredibly popular. Even people don't there can't be as many people who hate Nickelback because they sell so many albums.
My wife loves Nickelback.
Right, but they sell so many albums that people have to like it at least a little bit.
I know people that like Nickelback.
Right, but I'm saying at the same time, if you listen to Nickelback before them, there was that sound didn't really exist, and now there's like 20 bands that sound exactly like them.
You're right.
Okay, so here's a question, and it'll be good for the discussion when we're all here, yeah? It's okay to piggyback these games off of each other so that they all look the same and they all run the same. They just have different variations. So why is that not okay for Linux distros?
It's not okay. We're just making fun of the fact that they exist, but it's not okay. I mean,
you just say that you thought they were good?
No, I said Nickelback. A lot of people think that Nickelback is horrible and they're disgusting, but it can't be true because of how many albums they sell.
No, but I was on about the gaming before that when you said it's great that all these spin-offs are coming off.
No, I didn't say that. I said Binding of Isaac is great because of how it's structured and how it's interesting and the approach is interesting. I've never tried Burning of Nights and I don't have any intention to.
I think a lot of these distros are going to die off, and that's what I'm starting to see.
There's also I didn't bring it up because we didn't have time, but Arch is a good example. Arch is the Nickelback of Linux. You're welcome. So it goes.
Fight you real life.
Listen. I have a reason. It has no hype whatsoever. All of a sudden, gets hype. Bunch of different of copies and stuff that sits on top.
Arch, yeah.
For before 2014 or 15 or 2013, somewhere around there was Arch and that was it. Then all of a sudden, there's now 20 that are Arch based and stuff like that, like Arco. Manjaro and Interrogos
to the masses and allows us to enjoy it that we wouldn't do, because my biggest problem with Arch is, yes, I understand I can follow the wiki and it's quite easy to slot everything in its place, yeah?
Sure.
But then understanding the intricacies of whether you go ALSA or Pulse or how the two link together, how your desktop is going to marry up with your theme and all the rest. I haven't got time to learn all that nonsense.
That's fair.
I can appreciate what Arch is and the fact that I'm running 2 Arch distros now, Antigos and Salient.
But there's a difference, because what I'm saying is, let's say a distro wants to have an easy access to Arch. Someone wants to create that, and that in the times of 2013, it didn't exist. Now it exists, and people are still doing the exact same thing. There are 20, there's maybe even 30 of these distros that are just trying to make Arch easy, but they don't need to exist. All of those things.
All they did is put an installer in front of Arch.
We don't need. There's also multiples that use Calamares to do the installing. So just work on the same one together. You don't need to have that many. Even if there was 5 or 3 or 5,
but people's
understandable.
Egos and
that's
people's
true.
Understanding of what's right. I mean, that's why you've got the split between GNOME and KDE and XFCE and all the others, yeah?
Sure.
Because the developers don't agree with the same ethos.
That's
so
fine.
Why can't you have that with the spin-offs?
But no, I'm saying that's different, because when you look at KDE and you look at GNOME and you look at Cinnamon, they all have different approaches and they have different. They have a different focus, and they're very different. Their workflows are very different. They have a very.
Of course, yeah.
But you don't have KDE Plus, KDE Extreme, KDE Ultimate, or whatever. It's just KDE.
It's too complicated.
No.
For people to learn.
No. I'm just saying, I'm not saying people shouldn't make an Arch derivative that's easy. I'm just saying there shouldn't be 30 of them.
Right. Well, I think even more importantly, a lot of these, I hear time and time again, Arch crashes all the time. I
No,
even
it
heard
doesn't.
it from Popey when we were gaming. I said,
No, it doesn't.
I haven't had Arch crash. And he goes, you're lying. And I was like, no, I'm serious. It's not crashed in the 4 months now that I've been running it on all 7 computers or whatever I have in this house now.
I've had it crash once, and that was after an Antigos install. And within an hour of me having it crash, the answer was on the forum. They had a problem with Cinchi. And instead of allowing the Cinchi repos to sync up, it said reinstall it, but say, no, leave everything as it is.
That's my...
And let it do it after the fact.
My point is the problem I have with...
I've never had Arch itself crash. I've had
with Arch
derivatives
is
crash.
that the derivatives that keep creating derivatives of Arch do it poorly and don't go do things the Arch way. So they install all of this crap on top of Arch, which removes the whole purpose of Arch, by the way, because it's supposed to be kind of lightweight and tailored to your equipment. That's not the Arch way. The Arch way is to keep things simple. They install all of this crap for potential compatibility with every piece of hardware that could ever be installed, and they have it all loaded into the same ISO, which in Arch you would build all of that customized to your system, and then it crashes, and then people hate Arch for it. And it's not Arch's problem. Arch is ridiculously stable. I can't tell you. I think it's more stable than any other distro I've used to this point. I can't think of another one that's lasted this long without having a single problem.
I mean,
That's my current iteration, and maybe it's my hardware because I'm all Team Red and everything, and or Intel, and I don't have anything else. Maybe that's what's helping it.
You did it the Arch way, and you haven't added any nonsense on
Not a
top.
single crash on any of my systems.
Like, here's the thing for
What you need to do then is you need to give out a little tutorial how to install Arch, but explain to us numpties, ALSA or Pulse, where the desktop sits with the logon manager and all that sort of stuff, because that's where I think I would lose out, and I'd have an Arch install, but it wouldn't be flowing and it wouldn't work.
Right. So here's the issue with Arch, the install. If you go to tutorials for Arch, they all suck in a very similar way. They're all trying to just read the wiki and just copy and paste and tell you what to do. They don't explain any of what you're doing.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah, they're all like, every time I've watched just to see if someone like, I made an Arch install thing, I was like, okay, let's see what happens, and it's always the same. It's just,
and when I contribute to the wiki and I try to say we should add an explanation for what this is, they reject it.
Yes, they don't because they don't care if people understand it or not. Like, this is what they want.
Paste commands. I do it all the time on PEP when Mark says this is how you solve your problem. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, but I can copy and paste. But for me, that's not worth the effort of doing that Arch install. I want what Ryan's got. In other words, he's worked it all out. He's done his Arch install, and now he's got rock solid because he hasn't got a lot of the mess.
Right. Yeah.
And so unless I see a really big significant difference, I'm happy with Salient and Antigos.
Well, the difference is I've actually used not every single Arch-based thing because there's way too many, but I've used quite a few, and I've had breaks on those derivatives way more often than I had on the regular Arch. And the reason I started using those is because I got a new computer a long time ago, and I didn't want to deal with building Arch again. I just want to do it. Yeah. And that was great when they started bringing out Interrogos and Manjaro and all these other things, and it made it a lot easier. But I did have way more breaks than I did on those than I did on the Arch itself. And for example, like, there are sometimes Arch does break things, like the when they upgrade packages in stacks way too soon, that can break things. Like, Arch did break one thing, but technically I was on Interrogos at the time, so you could argue it's Interrogos' fault, but not really. It's Arch's fault because what they did. But it's because they upgraded from KDE 4 to Plasma 5 before Plasma 5 was even remotely ready, and that created breakage. But like, that's just a fluke.
They also do other silly little things. Like, I remember recently when I was on Arco, they did an upgrade to something or other, and the update that was coming down didn't have permissions to overwrite what was already on your system. So when you look at the error file, it was saying something along the lines that this GTK thing couldn't write because something already existed. Yeah. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. Let's go into that directory. Let's delete what's in there. Let's find the other directory. Let's delete what is in there. Go back and do the reinstall. Bingo, it worked.
Yeah.
But is that Archie's fault, Or, I mean, where does that sort of problem lie?
Well, I
Somebody
mean, those
doesn't
type
get the
those to me are
permissions
little
right.
bugs that people act like it's almost like the Windows thing where they act like, well, I run Ubuntu and I don't have anything crash. Bull crap. Go look at the bug report. It's crashed. There are crashes with software and hardware all over the place, especially with 1904 that just dropped. So that to me isn't, if it doesn't crash my whole system and now I have a blinking cursor and can't get back in, that's what I'm talking about, arch stability. Now, if you're talking about every once in a while a package signature is not missing, or you know, you've got something like that where permissions weren't set, that type of stuff happens every now and then.
Sure.
But I don't know that that's any different than anything I experienced on Ubuntu or any other distro.
Yeah, bugs
And
here
it
and there
didn't
is
break
not
the
a big deal.
system. It just wouldn't update.
Right.
Arch was still working, but on an older version of stuff. So yeah, it didn't. I've never had a catastrophic crash from Arch, and that says something because I run NVIDIA.
I've actually had a catastrophic crash,
that does. Yeah.
and it was running NVIDIA at the time. But the catastrophic crash was just a mistake of the packagers pushing stuff from testing to stable before it was ready, and that was that's the only example I can give. And it was just a weird, random thing that happened, and it kind of also happened in Kubuntu because they had to upgrade to Plasma 5 because they couldn't push out another LTS on a deprecated KDE 4 or Plasma 4 technically.
But that's a massive upgrade anyway from Plasma 4 to Plasma 5, so it was bound to break.
Yeah, so it was like a situation where no matter which distro I used when I did the process of 4 to 5, it was going to break. And to prove that, I tested it on Debian, and they also broke everything. Actually, Debian broke worse than Arch did, but they broke badly.
Yeah.
So, and no matter what distro you do, if you on those kind of situations, you're going to have a big problem. So, if you're trying to take a rolling distro and do that, if you're trying to do like a fresh install with a new 6 months ISO, you're not going to have those problems. But that was like just weird transition. Actually, though, 1604 to 1804 surprisingly is a decent upgrade considering how much has changed. But at the same time, just 1604 is not very good.
Are you hearing about all the bugs happening in 19.04?
Kubuntu is getting a little bit of bugs, but not that many. And I heard that Ubuntu is getting significant ones that are.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, Ubuntu is having significant problems.
I don't think there's a lot of them, but the ones
really
that are there.
it. That's what's weird. I hear about it. I hear it, meaning users are telling me it crashed my system. I can't get it installed. All this stuff, but I don't hear any news articles, so I don't know if it's.
Well, the problem is that every time I've heard about it is on something like Telegram or something, or on YouTube. Comments, but we can't really verify that because no one's providing bug reports and no one's telling anyone about it. So like all the times I've seen people talk about it, like I've said, did you submit a bug report? No, I just changed distros. Well, that's not help. That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't help anything.
That's not helping. Yeah.
So it's like I can't go on this podcast and say here's all these massive crashes for Ubuntu 1904 when I have no evidence to talk about.
Exactly. Yep.
So people, and also I had people like call me a fanboy or a shill because I'm not talking about that stuff. It's like I can't because you're not giving me evidence.
Yeah.
Well, I've had no problems with 19.04 yet.
Same. Although I've only tried Kubuntu,
but on Team Red, I don't expect to.
Bye. What you say is that it's downloaded the cat. Oh, you went to the 1904. I'm gonna put KDE on it and see about how that works.
So you're gonna download Ubuntu 19.04 GNOME and then stick KDE on it.
That will crash.
That is super passive aggressive, and it's gonna break everything.
Yeah, well, and if something breaks here, and if something breaks there, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I was testing Ubuntu, and I was trying to get all these various things to work, and in the end, I just couldn't get the desktop to work at all. So do you know how I fixed it? I installed a Plasma desktop on top of Ubuntu. It was great. Everything worked.
It works all the time in Arch. I can move desktop environments in Arch, and I never have an issue.
Well,
but
you can
I've done
do
it
certain.
In Ubuntu, and I've destroyed my system.
It depends on what you're what you're adding to. Like Ubuntu, because you have LXQt, you're going to have a stack that's very close and very similar. You're not going to get a ton of crashing. If you have something like XFCE, you can still do Plasma XFCE, no problem. Mate, most of the time you can. There's probably not a problem. It depends on what. It depends on what's installed, but more than likely it'll be fine. With even most of these DEs will have no problem with Plasma compatibility or other DEs. But you put GNOME in the mix, it just breaks everything. If you install anything alongside of GNOME, it's just gonna break.
Because what was interesting when they did the 1810 LXQT,
This is a
it had a bug
window
on some of the dailies where it would pop up and it would say, "Oh, you haven't got a window manager. Go and pick one." So you'd click and you'd go around searching everywhere, and the only window manager I could find, even though this was Ubuntu, was Kwin. Click on Kwin, install it, and the distro came up. It was crazy. So you're right. There is that core stuff that's there because it's Qt.
Well, the weird thing I don't understand is why LXQt uses OpenBox when they could use Kwin. But
Yeah, I know. It's mad.
Like OpenBox is great, but like, what's the point when you have so much? Like the weight that Kwin adds is so much less of an issue these days in comparison to OpenBox, because Kwin is a lot more resource light as they used to be, and it's also like more efficient. But you get like 1,000 more times benefit to have Kwin over OpenBox.
Well, here's something for you, and maybe we should put it in for the show next week. Deepin, it's going Kwin.
Interesting. I want to see what happens there.
Because Antec Designs, who did that Arch Deepin, he's now got a little script because it's not fully developed yet, and the next Deepin upgrade might break it. But he's got a little script that allows it to install all of the Kwin stuff, because that's the way Deepin are going to be going. They're going to be going whatever it is they do, the Kwin window manager. So
it's very interesting because they are Qt based anyway, so it's kind of weird that they wouldn't use Kwin or use because like Kwin is the only Qt specific window manager that is very heavily focused on Qt, whereas the other ones are like OpenBox works with Qt, but like meh.
But it's not the best,
Right, and there's other things that work with Qt that are not focused on it, so it's like, okay, sure. Yeah. But Kwin is like so heavily built into it that it's so efficient that it's ridiculous. And it has so much power and so much features while still being very resource like friendly.
So I'll try and get some more information from Antec and get it over to you, Michael.
Nice. I want to see what happens with Deepin, because like I think the worst thing about Deepin is that it's very clunky, and that it's very limited, and like it's really cool looking at the beginning, and then it has this. If you change anything, you do mess with anything, it just goes weird and clunky.
It's horrible. Yeah.
If they included Kwin, they could maybe solve some of those issues, and that would be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I've got to shoot. I've got my grandson like tapping on the door here, so I'll catch you guys.
Tell him to run Linux.
During the wink. Yeah. He's only 5, bless him. Catch you all later.
He can get a Chromebook. No, get a Pine book. Get a Pine book.
Yeah, Pine book.
And thanks to all the patrons who joined. And catch you later, Greg.
Yep. See ya.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
I should probably go too, because I got to
I think
finish.
we're all going to be splitting out here because I've got to go run and drink some moonshine. So.
I got to go fix my burn.
I'll try not to take any pictures or video while I'm drinking the moonshine, but if they do appear, just know I'm on moonshine, so forgive me.
Just forgive me. It depends on if you get a bikini on or not.
Exactly. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
I'm going to go too, because I got to get ready for This Week in Linux, because I do that today. That's the plan. So I will start streaming the This Week in Linux maybe in a couple hours. I don't know. Sometime soon is the goal. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.